A divine figure represents the sun god, whose legendary power flows through the chosen imperial bloodline. Emperor Elias of the Grandel Empire stands as the hero who inherited the sun's most magnificent power. The emperor's 3 children inherit divine star remnants as the scene shifts to a manor's hidden garden. Maids struggle with a heavy trunk near a remote manor while a scarred, blonde girl watches secretly. The maids discuss the manor's new use as storage, while the hidden girl clenches her hand tightly. Chilling rumors of a haunting presence in the manor leave the gossiping maids feeling uneasy and fearful. The mysterious girl skillfully navigates the massive tree roots reclaimed by the abandoned manor's crumbling interior. A soft step sounds as the golden-eyed girl lands, her face marked by deep and painful scars. The girl joyfully reunites with Zion, a small black dragon who has finally returned to her side. Zion scurries through the undergrowth, leading the way back into the depths of their secret forest sanctuary. Loneliness and severe hunger weigh heavily on the young girl as she stands amidst the quiet shadows. She shares her desperate dream of Zion growing large enough to fly her away to a distant freedom. A loud growl echoes, reminding the starving girl that she must find something to eat very soon. Driven by days of starvation, the girl is relieved when Zion brings her a small cluster of berries. A brilliant, divine light suddenly erupts from her hands, reflected in her startled and wide golden eyes. Overwhelming shock takes hold as the mysterious energy surges, catching the small child completely off guard. Searching through the dense foliage, the blonde-haired boy, Jaren, admits he hasn't found their lost item. The older boy, Derek, harshly scolds his younger companion for losing a precious remnant like an idiot. The young lady, Leona, demands Derek learn some manners while he remains unfazed and arrogant. Jaren sighs in resignation as his siblings continue their tiresome and loud bickering in the woods. A sudden drop startles the scarred girl as a mysterious pouch falls nearby, piquing Zion's curiosity. A suspicious rustle alerts the boys to an intruder's presence lurking nearby in the dense forest greenery. Derek spots the fleeing girl and immediately orders a pursuit, labeling the frightened child a common thief. Following his brother's command, Jaren lunges forward with surprising speed to intercept the runner. The terrified girl flees through the trees, desperate to escape her aggressive and persistent pursuers. Jaren performs an agile leap through the air, closing the distance as the girl watches from below. Complaining about the trouble his brother causes, Jaren finally catches up to the fleeing girl. A rough grab brings her escape to a sudden halt as the boy demands her destination. Derek interrogates the struggling girl with deep suspicion, accusing her of being a slave or an intruder. Despite her frantic and desperate struggles, Derek insists she will be spared punishment if she answers him. A sudden, violent thud sounds as a burst of energy repels the boy, throwing the girl down. Shocked by the mysterious repelling force, Jaren watches as the girl tearfully apologizes to her dragon. Leona arrives on the scene, clutching the recovered pouch and inquiring about the supposed thief Derek caught. Horrified, Leona scolds her brothers for their aggressive and cruel behavior towards such a small, vulnerable child. Leona marches forward to intervene while the brothers bicker over their failed and messy forest confrontation. Softly kneeling beside the trembling and scarred girl, Leona offers a moment of genuine concern and kindness. Traumatized and defensive, the scarred girl lashes out and warns the royal stranger not to touch her. Fear fuels her desperate command for everyone to leave her alone at once as her power surges. A swarm of blackbirds erupts into the sky, creating chaos as the royal siblings cry out. Amidst the swirling shadows of crows, Jaren urgently suggests a retreat from the inexplicable and frightening scene. The brothers lead their shaken sister away, planning to use the manor's servants to track the girl. Leona insists she has her star necklace safe as they retreat under a sky filled with omens. Deeply wounded and alone once more, the girl weeps while tightly clutching her only friend, Zion. A sudden, heavy bump jars the girl as she accidentally collides with another mysterious and tall figure. The girl tumbles to the ground, her small body aching from the unexpected and forceful impact. Her golden eyes gaze upward in fear and realization at the looming, armored shadow standing before her. A formidable knight in silver armor towers over her, his identity hidden by the cold, dark shadows. The knight's stern green eyes narrow as he questions the presence of a child in the forbidden woods. The armored man watches in silent contemplation as the small, battered child struggles to her feet. A piercing scream shatters the silence of the woods as the scene fades into a dark, terrifying uncertainty. A blonde knight in a red cape rushes through the forest as the title card appears. A heavy shadow looms over the scarred girl, hiding behind massive roots as a soft step sounds. Trembling with fear, the golden-haired girl asks if someone is there while hiding within the manor's ruins. William offers to patch her wounds, holding a bag. Standing in the abandoned manor, William watches the girl as she huddles defensively in the shadows. To build trust, William decides to leave the bag of food nearby before stepping away from her hiding spot. He steps back, sliding away as the girl cautiously jumps down to reach the unexpected meal. The starving girl ravenously eats the bread, coughing from her haste while the knight gently warns her to slow down. William places milk on the floor and slides it toward her while she approaches with cautious interest. The girl nods while eating as William asks how long she has called these ruins her home. William's request to return tomorrow causes the girl to freeze in surprise, clutching her bread tightly. He promises to bring more food tomorrow, looking at the child with a gaze full of growing compassion. William flies through the dark trees, pondering the strange girl's appearance and the secrets she might hold. He recalls her distinctive golden eyes, realizing they are the legendary jeweled eyes of the imperial line. Night falls over the palace as voices argue within, suggesting a heated debate among the royal siblings. Karajan, the black-haired leader of the Spear Sword Knights, stands firm while the royal children continue their bickering. Frustrated by the lack of cooperation, Derek yells at his companion, questioning if they are some kind of dictionary. Leona and Jaren watch the argument with silent resignation, shaking their heads at their brother's typical outburst. They decide to follow the knight's advice and seek out the Grand Chamberlain to resolve their search. William is caught off guard as he senses a powerful presence approaching him in the palace hall. Emperor Elias appears with a radiant halo of light, demanding an explanation for the children's loud commotion. The children look up in awe as the emperor looms over them, his presence filling the grand corridor. Elias turns his stern gaze toward Derek, asking what could possibly warrant such a loud and unrefined voice. The emperor initially dismisses the children's claims, asserting there is no way a child lives in those woods. William interjects to support the children, confirming he saw a tall girl in worn clothes hiding there. Derek excitedly asks for more details, while the emperor listens with a growing sense of suspicion. Looking for an excuse, Derek boldly claims the girl is his servant, though his siblings remain skeptical. William reveals the girl's location, explaining she resides in the ruined manor at the northeastern end of the grounds. He notes that the location is currently used as a storeroom, which explains her isolation from the palace. William describes her poor state, explaining she has been living in hiding and is in a fragile condition. The knight mentions seeing her jeweled eyes, a revelation that shocks everyone and changes the nature of the search. Back at the manor, the girl tells Zion she isn't hungry after the giant in sparkling clothes fed her. Elias contemplates the investigation, while the girl reflects on her mixed day, finding comfort with her cat friend. A new day begins under a clear blue sky as the chapter title transitions the story forward. Emperor Elias and William arrive at the derelict manor, peering through the foliage at the crumbling stone structure. Elias confirms the location as he prepares to confront the child hidden within the ancient ruins. The emperor asks William about the girl's whereabouts, determined to find the truth behind the jeweled eyes. Elias spots the girl perched high on a massive tree root that has reclaimed the manor's interior. Hiding behind the bark, the girl realizes the man before her is the one from her mother's memories. Elias asks her to come down, and she slowly slides down the root with Zion clinging to her shoulder. A sudden loss of footing causes she tumbles through the air with a soft shoo sound, her small body falling toward the hard ground. Elias catches her gently in his arms, his power creating a soft glow as he secures the falling child. He looks down with concern, asking if she is hurt while she stares back in complete shock. Panic takes over as she screams for him to let go, scratching his face in a desperate struggle. William and Karijan watch in stunned silence as the child lashes out at the emperor with animalistic fear. The girl clutches Zion tightly, her golden jeweled eye wide with defensive anger as she glares upward. William rushes forward to check on the emperor after the sudden attack, his face full of alarm. The girl tearfully apologizes while remaining in his arms, her defensive walls beginning to crumble under his touch. She asks to be put down as a mysterious golden energy begins to float them both into the air. A soft slide sounds as Elias kneels, while the girl peeks from behind a tree, questioning his presence. A sharp step alerts the knights as they watch the girl address the emperor with shocking, blunt accusations. Elias reflects on being called a liar, his face marked by a scratch from the girl's previous defensive struggle. Trembling behind the tree, the girl recounts her long, lonely wait for a promise that was never truly fulfilled. William turns in surprise as he ponders the girl's choice of words, which imply an animalistic view of parenthood. A heavy kneel follows as William realizes the child's unique way of speaking points to her divine imperial lineage. The knights are stunned to see the emperor smile, while the girl's golden eyes shimmer with a hopeful question. Zion makes a curious "Q" sound as the messy, battered girl remains cautiously hidden behind the massive tree. Turning away with a cold command to go back, the girl retreats as the men watch her from afar. Elias gently promises to return tomorrow with snacks and a meal, despite the girl's silent and defensive refusal. A sudden flap sounds as Elias drops his red cape, an action that draws a shocked look from Karijan. The red cape is revealed to be a precious item imbued with divine power, a secret known to priests. A soft step sounds as Elias and his knights exit the ruined manor, watched by a silent, elderly butler. Narrative text outlines Elias' gentle commands to provide the girl with food and warmth without pressuring her fragile state. Elias heads toward the records room, while Karijan acknowledges the emperor's order to prepare for their investigation immediately. The grand, sunlit spires of the imperial palace stand tall as the scene shifts toward the hidden archives. A title card introduces the records room, a massive library filled with the preserved history of the entire empire. Oslo, the red-haired recorder, is introduced as she confirms the absolute truth of the historical volumes she manages. With a soft of smoke, Oslo confirms her integrity while leaning against the tall bookshelves of the library. A glowing, golden book represents the records accessible only to the emperor, the recorder, and the imperial successor. Oslo defends her honesty against his perceived rudeness, while Elias asks if she has memorized all historical contents. A smooth slide sounds as Elias places an open book before Oslo, commanding her to read the specified text. Stylized art depicts a flashback of a previous emperor bringing a woman from the Eri clan into the palace. Because she was sensitive to sound, the emperor provided a quiet, isolated castle in the northeast for her comfort. The records describe the emperor guarding the room himself while the woman labored to give birth to him. Present-day dialogue highlights the existence of a neglected child in that same storage castle who recently called him father. Oslo explains that the Eri clan is a mysterious tribe that only exists through the memories of other living beings. Ancient history describes a god who relied on prayer to maintain power, a trait passed down to his descendants. Unlike their god, clan members lose their lives when forgotten, and every trace of them vanishes upon their death. Elias questions the cruelty of such a fate, where a life can be entirely erased if no one remembers. Oslo offers her personal, unrecorded knowledge on the matter, noting that the official historical records are currently incomplete. A quick flip of pages accompanies the theory that Eri women die for betraying their god with imperial children. Elias realizes the child was likely forgotten after her mother's death, surviving in absolute and tragic solitude ever since. He suggests finding the midwife present at the birth to uncover the truth of the girl's survival and upbringing. A sudden, violent crash shatters the quiet as Elias asks if lost memories can ever be truly retrieved again. A young boy with messy red hair bursts into the room, complaining about his lessons and mental exhaustion. The boy begs to go play, but Oslo emits a terrifying aura as she calls out his name, Rafas. A painful grind sounds as Oslo punishes the boy for his lack of manners, forcing an immediate, tearful apology. With a soft sniffle, Rafas apologizes while Elias recognizes the boy as Oslo's novice and future recording successor. Elias stands amidst a backdrop of sparkling roses, looking regal and thoughtful following the chaotic interruption by the child. Oslo dismisses her student to play, and he quickly exits with a loud wooden creak of the archive door. Pausing outside, Rafas thinks about the child in the eastern castle that he overheard mentioned during the secret meeting. Oslo rubs her head in frustration, admitting that the boy is indeed a troublemaker, despite being her chosen successor. She confirms the lack of information on the Eri clan makes the retrieval of forgotten memories an unknown possibility. Elias claims his interest is simply a favor for a friend, maintaining a cool and collected imperial composure. Oslo is taken aback, thinking she would have ended the discussion if his request had been a formal order. Back at the ruins, a soft wriggle sounds as something moves beneath the warm folds of the red cape. Zion lets out a soft meow as the girl admits the food brought by the old man was delicious. A sudden schwa of wind rustles the trees as the girl notices the forest is becoming bare for winter. Gazing at the falling snow, a mysterious long-haired figure speaks of the spirits arriving for the coming white days. The red-haired boy, Rafas, makes a playful yet mischievous face as he approaches the ruins. Huddled under the red cape, the blonde girl cries softly while Zion rests against her back. Rafas kneels and lets out a playful roar, startling the girl as he tries to wake her up. Rafas laughs heartily at her shocked expression, finding her defensive reaction to be incredibly funny. Rafas demands she stand up while the girl stares in bewilderment, her jeweled eye glowing with intense light. A firm pull accompanies Rafas grabbing her hand, determined to help the small girl to her feet. Excitedly, Rufus introduces himself as the recorder's successor, explaining that he visited simply because he was bored. Noticing her silence, Rufus wonders if she can speak and asks if she understands the concept of friendship. Rufus explains that friends are people who talk and keep things from being boring in this quiet place. Zion perches on her shoulder as the girl looks out toward the grand castle from behind the trees. Elias kneels before the girl to offer food, while Heron, the elderly butler, stands respectfully in the background. Realizing she lacks an identity, Elias gently offers to give the girl a name if she is willing. The girl looks up in stunned silence, her mind racing as she repeats the word name with wide-eyed wonder. Elias promises to search through ancient books to find a fitting name for her by the next evening. The girl clarifies if evening means when the moon rises, and Elias softly confirms her simple understanding of time. A transition scene shows the majestic spires of the imperial palace rising against a soft, clouded sky. A sharp step echoes through the hallway as Heron approaches the grand, gold-trimmed doors of the imperial study. The heavy doors open with a loud creak, revealing the vast, lamp-lit library within the palace. Heron announces his arrival to the emperor, who invites the Grand Chamberlain into the quiet, book-filled room. Surrounded by open tomes, a frustrated Elias scolds Heron for leaving the child alone in the ruins. Heron reports that the young lady has disappeared, prompting a shocked and angry response from the emperor. Elias issues an imperial command to find her immediately, declaring he will personally join the search. Under the full moon, the girl reflects on her mother's death and her father's long-standing neglect. As the girl turns to go back, Rufus realizes he forgot to ask for her name. Rufus is surprised by her sudden departure, but the girl firmly refuses his offer to eat at his place. When Rufus offers to walk her home, she cold-heartedly insists on going back into the forest alone. The small girl limps through. Spotting the girl, the blonde prince excitedly announces to his father that he has found her. With a heavy thud, the boy lands in front of her and offers a cheerful greeting. The girl looks exhausted and dazed as the boy asks if she remembers their previous meeting. He reassures her of his kind intentions, while Elias and his men race through the woods behind them. Elias lets out a desperate cry for the child, his face etched with worry as he catches up. Catching her in his arms, Elias asks if she is okay, while the girl thinks of him as Daddy. A sudden fall follows as the girl loses consciousness in Elias's arms, leaving him in a state of alarm. Waking up in a soft bed, the girl finds Elias gently touching her face and checking on her well-being. Elias looks somber as a ghostly memory of a woman appears behind him, asking the child if she hurts. The girl reaches out to him, acknowledging his kindness as she looks into his eyes with trust. Overwhelmed with emotion, Elias responds with a soft word of agreement while holding her hand. Zion watches as the girl wakes up fully, questioning where she is and why her father is there. Elias explains that they are in his palace and that he brought her there to receive medical treatment. Sitting at her bedside, Elias tells her that he has been waiting for her to finally wake up. The girl suddenly remembers the promise of a name, causing Zion to tumble as she sits up excitedly. Elias scolds the blue-haired priest for eating while the girl was suffering, while she asks about her name. Apologizing for the wait, Elias prepares to reveal the name he chose as the priest grumbles behind him. With a gentle expression, Elias officially bestows the name Estrella Sol Grandel upon the young girl. The girl repeats the name Estrella, as Elias explains it represents the sun and the goddess of stars. A happy nod confirms the girl likes her new name, though the priest remains irritated in the background. Elias mentions she slept for 2 days, and while she doesn't feel sick, she wonders about her hunger. A loud growl from her stomach startles the girl as Zion watches her from the pillow. Laughing joyfully, the girl tells Zion she finally understands that she is indeed very hungry. Elias asks if there is anything Estrella wants to eat, and she replies she can eat anything. The blonde girl asks if her father will eat with her as the butler stands respectfully nearby. Taken aback by the request, Elias asks for confirmation while looking at the young, scarred girl. A small, quiet nod follows as Estrella invites the emperor to share the food with her. Looking downcast, the blonde child softly thanks her father for the beautiful name he bestowed upon her. Elias asks if she has finished eating as they sit before a table of cleared, empty plates. Estrella shakes her head when offered more, signaling she is full and the meal is truly over. Elias suggests a conversation, but the girl is visibly confused about what they could possibly talk about. The emperor brings up the isolated house in the northeast where she spent her long years of solitude. While Heron wipes her hands, Elias warns of the coming winter's harsh cold and the threat of starvation. The girl insists she has been living well, despite the obvious neglect and isolation of her past. Elias promises comfort and food, but Estrella bluntly admits she still does not like him at all. Acknowledging her feelings, Elias is questioned why he continues to try helping her despite her clear dislike. Elias explains his actions are born from a deep sense of guilt, leaving the young girl completely bewildered. He expresses a late but sincere desire to finally remember her and live together within the palace. Estrella reactively asks about a bath, her eyes wide as magical bubbles float in the air around her. The blonde boy, Jaren, peeks into the room, wondering why the butler hasn't entered the room yet. Chaos erupts as Jaren and Leona burst in, disregarding the emperor's orders to stay away from Estrella. Leona puffs out her cheeks defiantly, insisting she never agreed to stay outside while they visited. Overwhelmed by the sudden noise and the rowdy new faces, Estrella trembles and cowers in total fear. Two maids arrive and bow, introduced as the help who will assist Lady Estrella with her transition. After chasing the other children out, Elias finds Estrella hiding fearfully under the heavy bed covers. The girl glares from the dark shadows of the blankets, still defensive and wary of everyone around her. Estrella sees a vision of a sticky, black aura surrounding Heron, sensing a dark omen near the butler. She issues a cryptic warning to be careful of leaves before walking away across the ornate room. Elias and Heron are left in a state of utter confusion, unable to understand her mysterious words. Back in his study, Elias asks for updates while surrounded by piles of imperial research books. Heron reports the discovery of a poisonous herb, though the source of the plant remains a concern. Elias orders a gag order and tightened security to protect the imperial children from any potential harm. A sudden, loud burst sounds as a frantic maid rushes into the study, screaming for immediate help. Elias finds the orange-haired maid distressed and scratched, looking for the girl who has vanished again. The maid tearfully explains that the young lady seems to have a terrifying, violent fear of baths. Caught off guard, Elias repeats the word in shock, wondering why a bath would cause such panic. The maids describe Estrella's panicked escape and how she called them liars before hiding under the bed. Feeling relieved by the emperor's presence, the maids thank him while they huddle together in distress. With a heavy step, Elias approaches the bed to apologize for his inconsiderate request regarding the bath. Estrella recalls a magical memory of swirling water droplets that once sparkled beautifully around her body. She explains that a friend provided that unique experience, leaving Elias deep in thought about her past. Elias kneels by the bedside, acknowledging the unique and magical way she used to clean herself. He gently asks the child if she would be willing to listen to his own story now. Estrella gazes forward through a backdrop of blooming red roses, looking lost in her own complicated thoughts. While Zion gives a soft nuzzle, Elias explains there are many ways to bathe, including sparkly ones. Elias admits he was too inconsiderate and promises to explain things more properly to her next time. An ethereal figure with long, blue-white hair appears amidst a frozen and crystalline winter landscape. Shrouded in the cold, the mysterious figure gazes out with an expression of calm and quiet sorrow. Snowflakes drift through the bare, frosted trees as the forest landscape prepares for the coming white days. The spirit-like figure realizes they have arrived earlier than usual as the winter chill begins to set in. Looking toward the horizon, the mysterious figure expresses a soft, worried hope that Estrella is not crying. The scene returns to the palace's quiet, ornate interior, where the desk and furniture remain undisturbed. Elias asks the blonde girl once more if she truly has no desire to move into the palace. Estrella expresses her growing concern about the approaching winter while she sits on the bed holding Zion. Kneeling beside her, Elias explains that the winter chill will make her long solitude even harder to bear. Estrella falls silent as a crystalline vision of the mysterious, blue-haired figure in a snowy landscape flickers through her mind. Looking downcast, Estrella firmly tells her father she does not like winter, prompting him to ask for the reason. Elias senses her reluctance to speak and determines to avoid doing anything that might make her hate him further. He gently suggests that she move into the safety of the palace before the harsh winter weather truly begins. Elias promises to finish necessary construction before the cold sets in, leaving Estrella wide-eyed and stunned by his dedication. A warm and sincere smile spreads across Elias's face as he waits for his daughter's reaction to his offer. Estrella turns her attention back to Zion, who responds to her soft call with a cheerful, high-pitched chirp. While Zion continues to chirp excitedly, Estrella remains curled up, weighing the Emperor's offer in her quiet mind. Surprised by the interaction, Elias asks for confirmation on whether she is truly communicating with the small black dragon. Estrella looks at her father and explains that Zion encouraged her to accept the invitation to stay there. A memory of a younger Estrella with a fierce cat appears, questioning why wild beasts seem to obey her command. Elias leans in with curiosity, asking for the specific details of what Zion said to convince her to stay. Estrella admits that Zion suggested accepting his goodwill simply because the food at the palace is so tasty. Feeling a wave of relief, Elias looks away with a soft expression and admits he is truly glad. Estrella maintains a firm boundary, insisting that she will only stay until winter before returning to her isolated home. Bowing his head in respect for her wishes, Elias promises she will live in total warmth until that time. Looking down at the blankets, Estrella softly agrees to the arrangement, her posture finally losing some of its tension. The scene shifts to the vast, ornate bedroom, where a small figure creates a soft ripple beneath the covers. Nestled deep in the plush bed, a content Estrella cuddles with an orange cat while she rests in peace. The girl finds comfort in the quiet moment, gently stroking the soft fur of the cat as time passes. Zion playfully licks Estrella's cheek, making her break into a bright, genuine laugh as she complains that it tickles. The peace is suddenly interrupted as the heavy covers are lifted, startling the girl and her animal companions. Siren and Bella greet the young lady warmly, reminding her that they were the ones who helped her bathe. Estrella immediately retreats behind a large red pillow, defensively ordering the two maids to leave her room at once. Bella and Serene exchange a nervous, quick nod, realizing they need a more gentle approach to earn her trust. They present a tray of warm milk and cookies, hoping the delicious scent will help the girl feel more welcome. Peeking over her pillow, Estrella looks at the treats with wide-eyed wonder and repeats the word cookie with curiosity. Bella asks if she has ever tasted them before, but Estrella admits she has never had such a thing. The brown-haired maid takes a cautious step forward, encouraging the wary girl to try one of the sweet treats. Estrella looks toward the food, while the two maids exchange a worried glance, hoping she will accept their small offering. With a sudden, intense burst of energy, Estrella lunges forward and grabs the tray with both hands, surprising Bella. Estrella devours the cookies so quickly she begins to choke, sending the maids into a state of frantic panic. Bella rushes forward with a cup of warm milk, urging the coughing girl to drink and clear her throat. Estrella stares at the bowl of milk in her hands with a stunned expression, momentarily overwhelmed by the sudden attention. To the maid's utter disbelief, Estrella leans over and begins licking the milk directly from the bowl like a cat. The two women stand in shocked silence, staring at the girl as she continues to drink in her peculiar way. Siren frantically explains that she must tilt the cup to drink properly, but Estrella worries about her hungry pets. The orange-haired maid reassures her the milk is for her alone, despite Estrella's insistence that Zion and the cats need food. Siren smiles warmly, promising that Zion, Longy, and Yellowy will receive their own special meals very soon. Touched by the kind gesture, Estrella's eyes soften as she repeats the word present with a look of pure wonder. With a happy nod and a beaming smile, Estrella finally feels a sense of joy in the maid's company. Estrella drinks too enthusiastically and accidentally splashes milk all over herself, causing the maids to cry out in alarm. Siren frantically dabs at the girl's face with a cloth, while Bella worries about the ruined present of the milk. Proclaiming she will return in a flash, Siren runs out to warm up another serving for the young lady. An awkward silence follows as Estrella and Bella watch the door, the girl looking confused by Siren's sudden exit. Bella turns back to the bed with a nervous look, feeling the weight of the girl's intense, golden-eyed gaze. Estrella asks with surprising directness if she is making Bella feel uncomfortable, but the maid quickly denies any ill feelings. Siren bursts back into the room, announcing her return with the freshly warmed milk for her grateful young lady. Estrella firmly corrects the maid, insisting she prefers to be called by her name rather than a formal title. High above the grand bedroom, the maids dutifully agree to address the young lady as Estrella. Still processing her new surroundings, Estrella stares off with a guarded and contemplative expression. Heron the butler politely refuses her request to go out, prompting a curious and questioning look from Estrella. He warns her about the cold ground and biting wind, though she remains unconvinced without the presence of snow. Puffing out her cheeks with childlike pride, Estrella insists she is strong enough to handle any weather. Heron points out that everyone else wears shoes and asks the young girl if she truly believes he is mistaken. Realizing a cold would keep her from playing with friends, Estrella finally relents and agrees to wear the boots. Heron promises a matching backpack for her treats, while Estrella inspects her new, sturdy footwear. With a soft smile, the butler watches as the girl accepts the rest of her new adventuring outfit. Estrella gazes intently at the butler, her golden eyes narrowing as she examines his unique, warm aura. Breaking into a rare, happy grin, she admits she likes Heron's warm color and doesn't hate him. The girl's thoughts drift to her father, wondering what kind of aura surrounds the powerful emperor. She points toward the glowing embers of the fireplace, suggesting her father's color is just as bright and flickering. Ready for adventure, Estrella asks for permission to leave, while Heron calls the maids to assist her. Outside, the sun shines brightly over the lush greenery surrounding the elegant, white-stoned palace building. Leona and Jaren peek through a heavy doorway, searching for their elusive and mysterious youngest sibling. Despite her father's orders to stay away, Leona justifies her spying by claiming she's keeping a safe distance. Dressed in Jaren's old scouting clothes, Estrella wanders through the brush, looking every bit the little adventurer. Leona pouts about the choice of clothes, feeling her own prettier dresses would have suited Estrella much better. The two children continue their hushed argument about boundaries while shadowing Estrella through the dark palace grounds. Concern washes over their faces as they worry if the isolated girl feels scared in the dim, shadowed corridors. A sudden, loud bang and rustle sounding from the bushes send the spying siblings into a state of panic. Their terror peaks as Zion, the small black dragon, suddenly appears, while Jaren tries to remain calm. Leona peeks out from the shadows again, her curiosity slowly overcoming her initial shock at the dragon's presence. High-pitched screams continue to echo through the hallway as Leona clings to Jaren in the face of the unknown. Zion the baby dragon darts through the leaves with a quick squeak, proudly carrying a small rat caught during his hunt. The siblings realize the source of the commotion was just a rodent, though Leona remains visibly shaken. Leona crouches by a hollow log, trying to communicate with the tiny dragon to find Estrella's whereabouts. Jaren watches in disbelief as the baby dragon seemingly understands and responds to Leona's questions with a chirp. With renewed determination, Leona asks the small creature for permission to enter the girl's secret hiding spot. She decides they must follow quietly, hoping to catch a glimpse of Estrella's private world without being seen. Jaren hesitates at the risks, but Leona is already moving forward, promising to only take a harmless peek. A memory of their father's stern warning flashes back, reminding them that Estrella is still fearful of strangers. Deep in the library, Estrella shares a tender and happy moment while cuddling with her soft orange cat. Watching from behind a wall, the siblings are stunned to see the girl seemingly conversing with her pets. Leona is completely charmed by Estrella's cuteness, imagining how much more adorable she'd be with chubby cheeks. The scene shifts to Estrella sitting alone atop a desk, surrounded by piles of discarded research books. Zion chirps a warning, prompting a startled Estrella to realize that she is no longer alone in the room. Leona and Jaren stand frozen in the library, caught red-handed as they stumble into the girl's sanctuary. Back in the study, Heron and a black-haired aide stand before the emperor to discuss palace affairs. The black-haired man bows respectfully, acknowledging a direct command from his sovereign with a formal response. Elias asks for information regarding the queen's reaction to Estrella's presence within the imperial palace. A radiant, golden image of a crowned figure appears, representing the distant and majestic presence of the queen. Confused by Zion's message, Estrella looks around the library for any sign of Heron or her father. Leona and Jaren exchange frantic whispers, desperately trying to decide their next move before they are fully confronted. Encouraged by Zion's chirps, Estrella decides to take matters into her own hands and speak to the intruders. She turns around with a sharp, focused look, her golden eyes landing directly on the two hiding children. Reflecting on the kindness of her father and Heron, Estrella bluntly asks Leona why she is so small. Leona is left speechless and utterly offended by the young girl's surprisingly direct and unintentional insult. Leona clenches her fist, declaring she has every right to worry as she is becoming Estrella's sister. Leona explains that their father officially declared Estrella would become their new youngest sibling. After a moment of silence, Leona asks Estrella with a nervous stutter if she can come a bit closer. Holding Zion close, Estrella looks back with a confused expression and asks why Leona wants to approach her. Leona explains the rules, but asks for permission to approach if Estrella isn't feeling too scared of her. Thinking of a possible reward, Estrella curiously mentions the word cookie while looking at her new sister. Leona excitedly offers all her snacks, but Estrella's golden eyes sparkle with curiosity at the mention of chocolate fondue. Jaren watches the interaction with a bead of sweat, wondering exactly what kind of plan Leona is cooking up. With a hopeful smile, Leona repeats her request to bridge the distance and come closer to her mysterious sister. Leona joyfully proposes a 5-step distance compromise, much to Jaren's immense relief as the tension finally breaks. Step, step. Estrella carefully counts the distance, while her thoughts remain fixated on the promise of delicious cookies. Leona is overjoyed, her eyes shining with excitement as she realizes she finally has permission to approach. Leona turns with a warm and genuine smile, her happy aura filling the quiet library space. Noting the humming girl's red shoes and bright expression, Estrella realizes Leona bears a striking resemblance to their father. Leona leans in with a cheerful ta-da! But Estrella begins to feel a bit overwhelmed by the sudden proximity. Leona radiates a friendly and loving energy, hoping to make Estrella feel comfortable and welcomed into the family. Estrella gives a small nod as Leona prepares to launch into a detailed explanation of the mysterious chocolate fondue. The scene shifts to the Grand Palace, its golden roofs gleaming brightly under the clear, blue afternoon sky. Within the opulent throne room, a voice calls out in confusion, questioning the emperor's recent and unexpected proclamations. Emperor Elias calmly explains that a forgotten child exists, and he intends to officially adopt her once parentage is proven. Looking back, Elias recalls the strange sense of longing and recognition he felt when he first encountered the girl. He reflects that no one could possibly deny her royal lineage after seeing the brilliance of her unique, jeweled eyes. Resting his chin on his gloved hand, Elias considers bestowing the remnants of stars upon the young child. Marquis Kelpie, dressed in a red military uniform, skeptically asks if there is any concrete proof of the girl's heritage. Elias stares down from his golden throne, silently acknowledging the Marquess's blunt and public display of doubt. The emperor confidently asserts that even the most skeptical men will recognize her royal blood the moment they see her. Elias issues a firm denial, leaving Marquis Kelpie staring back with a look of pure, wide-eyed confusion. Question marks float around the Marquess as Elias explains that Estrella is easily frightened and cannot receive visitors yet. The emperor strictly limits access to the girl, stating that only he and the butler, Heron, may approach her. Elias remains firm in his protective stance, while Kelpie reluctantly bows his head and accepts the sovereign's decision. The conversation shifts as reports of a mysterious and unknown epidemic spreading through the southern territories reach the emperor's ears. A red-haired young man named Kelphil Wyleron introduces himself, explaining he has arrived as a substitute for his father. A black-haired aide steps forward with a formal scroll, presenting the latest findings on the southern crisis to Elias. Elias reaches out and begins to unfurl the scroll, his gaze sharpening as he prepares to read the dire news. In the southern mountains, peaceful wildlife has suddenly transformed into mad, aggressive beasts that terrorize the local Wyleron villages. Elias nods solemnly as he processes the gravity of the situation unfolding in the remote southern reaches of his empire. The report details how the insane beasts began attacking everyone, leading to several tragic casualties despite the villagers' hunting skills. The emperor listens intently, his expression darkening as the full scale of the tragedy and the loss of life is revealed. Kelphil describes how the madness spreads through mere scratches, causing infected knights to fall into a violent, biting frenzy. To contain the spread, the infected were jailed, yet the endless tide of aggressive beasts continues to pour from the mountains. Elias asks if there has been any progress in finding a cure for this strange and violent southern illness. Sweating nervously, Kelphil admits that a lack of resources and personnel has brought their medical investigations to a complete standstill. A brown-haired man shouts in alarm, accusing Kelphil of potentially bringing the dangerous infection directly into the emperor's presence. Kelphil defends himself, arguing the illness isn't airborne, but the skeptical man remains unconvinced by his lack of medical evidence. Desperate for his people, Kelphil begs for the emperor's aid as crop failures and scams push the territory toward collapse. Elias confirms that the scroll contains all known symptoms, preparing to analyze the data to find a possible way forward. Rubbing his aching head, the weary emperor promises to find a solution to the growing crisis in the south. Elias dismisses the young man to rest, promising to deliver his final decision on the matter in exactly 1 week. Commending the boy for his courage, the emperor allows Kelphil to depart from the grand hall as the audience concludes. Elias remains in deep thought, troubled by the ominous reports of the unknown and violent beasts from the southern mountains. Walking through the corridor, Elias instructs Karijan to prepare military supplies and issue an official notice for the south. Shifting to a pink-hued room, Elias stands alone before a large, ornate door, preparing himself for the meeting inside. Clenching his fist with a nervous bead of sweat, Elias enters the room as a voice beckons him in. Peeking around the door, Elias apologizes to Estrella for his lateness, wondering if she had been waiting long. Estrella stares back with wide eyes, making a soft sound of uncertainty as she greets her father. Elias is startled when Estrella calls him a firework, her unique jewel eyes glowing with a mysterious, flickering flame. Surprised by the comparison, Elias listens as Estrella explains the burning sensation she sees and asks whom he met. With a firm click of the door closing, Elias orders Heron to summon Karijan and Marquis Kelpie for immediate consultation. Kneeling before the balcony railing, Elias gently asks the young girl to share what is currently weighing on her mind. Looking away with a somber expression, Estrella softly confesses to her father that she is feeling very scared. Respecting her boundaries, Elias promises to keep his distance to ensure she feels safe while they continue to speak. Estrella nods silently as Elias mentions the many people he encountered earlier, hoping she can provide some insight. Curious about his lack of fear, Estrella asks Elias why he isn't afraid despite the strange things she sees. Standing with his back turned, Elias explains that his duty to protect his people leaves no room for personal fear. Elias asks Estrella to check the people he met for any unusual signs, desperate for any clue she might perceive. Reassuring her of her safety, Elias promises to keep the others away, reminding her that she already knows Karijan. Estrella looks down pensively, acknowledging her father's words as she prepares to face the visitors waiting outside. Outside the door, Karijan and the scarred Marquis Kelpie are granted permission to enter the Emperor's private presence. As the two men enter, Heron stands by as Elias remains on the floor near Estrella's balcony. Clutching her cat, Estrella confirms the presence of the fireworks, her firm hold indicating her growing tension and worry. Marquis Kelpie looks on skeptically, questioning if they are actually in danger of being harmed by these supposed fireworks. Kelpie flinches as Estrella bluntly declares he is burning, prompting Elias to investigate the conference hall for hidden intruders. Elias thanks Estrella for her honesty while she remains huddled with her cat, looking visibly drained by her visions. Looking deeply concerned, Elias asks his daughter what ultimately happens to the people she sees burning with this malice. The room remains quiet as Heron waits while Elias and Estrella discuss the dark implications of her special sight. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Elias determines that he must find a cure for this spreading, violent corruption. Elias glances back at Heron, who shakes with visible anxiety as the weight of the girl's words sinks in. With a solemn nod, Estrella confirms her father's suspicions, her gaze fixed on the unseen dangers surrounding them. The conversation shifts toward finding the root of the problem, a necessary step to stop the spreading madness. A memory of a pale-skinned woman explains how a corrupted demon's malice can devastate both humans and their world. In the vision, the woman warns young Estrella to stay away from such corruption, lest she fall ill herself. Estrella tries to pronounce the bastard's root, her hand held near her mouth as she concentrates on the name. Elias looks completely baffled and slightly offended, mishearing the plant's name as bastard's root with a confused expression. The woman in the memory explains that a monster leaves behind a rock upon death, which must be retrieved. Back in reality, Estrella explains they must find the monster's rock, leaving Elias and Heron stunned by her knowledge. Holding her cat close, Estrella explains the rock appears after death, while Corrigan asks what monster they face. Estrella's golden eyes shimmer with hesitation as she struggles to name the species, finally whispering the word demon. Elias reacts with visible shock, his eyes widening as he repeats the word demon in complete disbelief. Feeling flustered by her father's intense reaction, Estrella clutches her pet tightly, her face flushed with sudden anxiety. Elias apologetically cancels their meal to handle the crisis, leaving a confused Estrella wondering why he must leave. Leading his men toward the door, Elias explains they must catch the bad monster hiding within the palace walls. Estrella nods as Elias promises to have dinner later, warning that they will lose their home without swift action. Elias looks somber as he asks Estrella if she would prefer to eat with Leona instead. With a look of earnest concern, Estrella warns her father to be extremely cautious of the demons. Elias looks back with a sharp, resolute gaze, promising his daughter that he will remain on his guard. Reflecting on her jewel eyes, Elias realizes he has yet to fully grasp the extent of Estrella's divine power. As they walk, Elias explains that her eyes allow her to see through people and reveal their true nature. Kelpie acknowledges Estrella as the future princess, while Elias notes only the imperial family possesses those legendary eyes. Elias concludes that Estrella must be his child, choosing to believe her strange and terrifying stories about the demons. Recalling old texts, Elias remembers that demons supposedly went extinct, though Estrella's visions prove the history books wrong. Elias taps the table rhythmically, questioning Corrigan if he has any insights regarding the current predicament. Corrigan, the black-haired man, confirms he is aware of the rocks that manifest when a demon perishes. Leaning over his desk, Elias asks for clarification on the nature of these mysterious demon deathstones. Corrigan explains how a demon's lifespan and the corrupted magic stone it leaves are directly linked to magic. As Corrigan details the stone's danger, Marquis Kelpie observes him closely, noting his unusually deep knowledge of demons. Elias concludes that they will inevitably need the divine power of purification to handle these corrupted magic stones. The Emperor reflects on the horrific aftermath of touching such stones, recalling how victims can literally melt away. Elias questions Corrigan if sending people into the situation without a plan would only aggravate the growing crisis. Elias instructs Heron, the butler, to send a letter summoning the high priest to the palace immediately. As Heron leaves, Elias worries about the airborne nature of the contagious malice and madness spreading through the empire. Elias orders Karajan to monitor all meeting attendees while organizing a report on all imperial records concerning demons. Elias dismisses Marquis Kelpie, who looks back with a stern, skeptical expression as he departs from the emperor. Elias reflects on Estrella's mother and his own disturbing lack of memory regarding his child's birth and past. The weary emperor notes how rare it is for him to overlook such significant and personal details. Elias looks at a vision of the young girl, realizing she must undergo rigorous training to manage her powers. Elias contemplates the complexities of leadership, where good intentions sometimes require difficult lies and strategic retreats. Marquis Kelpie muses that Estrella's calm demeanor likely stems from witnessing too much of humanity's dark side. Elias acknowledges that he must teach Estrella about the balance of good and evil within the world. Marquis Kelpie requests another meeting to grow closer to Estrella, prompting a visibly annoyed reaction from the emperor. Elias issues a fierce threat against unpermitted approaches, which the Marquis mockingly dismisses as a sign of old age. A firm click echoes as the heavy, ornate doors to the emperor's private office finally close. In her pink-hued room, Princess Leona announces her excitement about visiting Estrella, the youngest of their siblings. A blonde boy, Jaren, protests loudly as Leona attempts to get a head start on visiting their new sister. Leona turns with a playful stance, teasing her brother about earning more points with the young princess. Jaren accuses Leona of using dishonest tactics, questioning why she previously followed Estrella in secret. A flashback shows Jaren's shock and a clenched fist upon discovering Estrella was his younger sister. Leona dismisses his grumbling, noting she was already punished by their father for her past secret maneuvers. The youngest blonde brother complains that Leona is hogging Estrella and leaving no space for him to bond. A memory shows Estrella and a girl saying goodnight, proving she has already greeted some of the household. Jaren tells his brother to stop dreaming, suggesting he merely imagined being personally greeted by the young princess. Surrounded by roses, a smiling Leona offers to speak well of her brothers to Estrella if they're jealous. Stepping away, Jaren ignores her teasing and chooses to ask Heron about tomorrow's snacks instead. Leona laughs with a sparkling aura, enjoying her victory and praising her own superior social tact. Leona strides toward the large doors as her brothers stand by, each processing the sibling rivalry differently. Walking down the long gallery, Leona worries about her lack of a gift, wondering if Estrella likes dolls. Leona wonders if Estrella would enjoy visiting her room, or if the girl is already planning her departure. Reaching the destination, Leona stands alone before the massive white doors, gathering her confidence for the visit. Turning around one last time, Leona anxiously wonders if her appearance is suitable for this important sibling meeting. With a determined and bright smile, Leona readies herself to present her best self to her younger sister. Leona peeks around the door with a cheerful greeting, asking Estrella if she arrived too late to meet. Peeking in, Leona finds Estrella already eating and quickly joins her, noting the girl's adorable, hungry behavior. Watching the girl eat with enthusiasm, Leona affectionately thinks about teaching her proper table manners in the future. Estrella nods happily while enjoying her drink, clearly warming up to Leona's presence and kind sibling hospitality. Leona asks to use the nickname Rel, while Estrella recalls hearing the name from the Big Red before. Estrella prefers her full name, but Leona remains hopeful they will use nicknames once they've grown much closer. Leona promises to bring cookies every day if they eat together, then asks to be called Unny for once. Estrella curiously asks if Leona prefers being called Unny over her name, as the princess smiles warmly back. With a polite nod and a mouthful of food, Estrella finally calls Leona Unny, acknowledging their bond. Leona beams with a radiant, flowery joy, absolutely delighted by Estrella's recognition of her as an older sister. Estrella watches her sister with a soft, genuine smile, her golden jewel eyes shimmering with newfound comfort. Maids gossip about a mysterious child hidden in the palace's quietest room to avoid contact with adults. A blonde maid looks on with a gasp of shock, visibly startled by an unexpected sight nearby. Estrella walks down the hall clutching Zion, while the maids wonder why she is carrying a lizard. Hiding in fear, the maids watch as Estrella panics, refusing to make eye contact or accept their help. Behind the massive doors, the maids plan to join forces and use cookies to lure the shy princess. Estrella collapses with a soft flop against the wall, complaining that her heavy companion Zion is weighing her down. As a small creature lets out a soft cue, Estrella tells Zion to be quiet to avoid detection. A blue snake tickles Estrella with a slide, causing her to giggle, while the black dragon Zion watches. A massive, terrifying entity of red and black flames manifests in the hallway, radiating a dark and powerful aura. Estrella lets out an annoyed huff as her golden jewel eye shimmers, sensing the danger of the flame monster. With a sudden jump, the red-haired boy appears through the demonic flames, his presence shifting the room's energy. The freckled boy asks Estrella if she is all right, unaware of the swirling malice manifesting directly behind him. Kneeling before her, the boy wonders why Estrella is making such a frightened face, despite his seemingly gentle tone. Staring intently with his red eyes, the boy ponders if children possess instincts that recognize his true nature. Estrella sweats with anxiety as her blue snake companion, Longy, drapes defensively over her shoulders while facing him. The boy reveals a massive, flaming flare as he declares that Estrella is one of the divine Jubars. Longy lunges forward with a fierce hiss, baring fangs in a desperate attempt to protect his mistress from him. With a casual toss, the boy flings the snake aside, finding the creature's growth to be more annoying than threatening. Claiming he has no ill will, the boy admits that these small creatures threaten him, demanding her understanding. A dark, shadowy hand reaches out as the boy mentions feeling a strange remorse toward the young Jubar princess. Trembling, Estrella tells the boy she dislikes him, declaring him to be a bad person based on her sight. A dark whoosh echoes as the boy considers killing her, yet he is confused by the feelings she evokes. He decides Estrella isn't a good starting point, as a ghostly blue figure manifests behind the young princess. He asks for a friend he can use instead, but Estrella coldly replies she has no friends to give. Zion and the blue snake return to Estrella's side, while the boy kneels on the checkered floor before her. Estrella stands silent and resolute, her golden eyes fixed on the boy as she processes his strange and threatening words. The boy asks what he looks like in her eyes, curious about the extent of her legendary jewel sight. He smiles at her, his red eyes glowing with an unsettling, malicious light that belies his youthful human appearance. Estrella's jewel eyes narrow in focus, seeing through the boy's mask and revealing through the dark power hidden within him. Estrella thanks Yellowy as a soft psh sounds, the boy's flames dissipating as her innocent words stun him. The boy regains his composure, stating that while he rarely makes promises, he never breaks those he gives. He makes a lethal bet, promising to heal her pet if she correctly names the power he truly wields. A massive flare erupts as he confirms his firepower, demanding that Estrella use her gifts to save Longy. Estrella hesitates while the boy insists she must follow through on her promise or face his deadly intentions. She asks the boy if he even knows who she is, catching him off guard with her sudden question. She formally introduces herself as Estrella, standing her ground with quiet dignity against the boy's dark and overwhelming magic. Flustered, the boy identifies himself as Kelphil Wyleron, his confident facade momentarily cracking as he reveals his name. With a firm push, Estrella presents the snake, demanding that Kelphil fulfill his promise to heal the injured creature. Estrella watches him with an unwavering gaze, her golden eyes judging whether he truly honors the promises he makes. With a dismissive flick, Kelphil uses his magic to heal the pet, annoyed that she didn't simply give up. Delighted to see Longy restored, Estrella beams with a genuine smile, her joy radiating through the tense hallway. Kelphil notices the dragon Zion and begins to suspect that Estrella is much more powerful than she initially appeared. Estrella tilts her head in confusion as the boy suddenly pulls away, reacting to the presence of her companions. She reminds him that Zion is heavy, while Kelphil stares in silent disbelief at the creature she carries around. Standing up, Kelphil notes that he has frozen time for their surroundings, though doing so makes him feel uncomfortable. He reflects on the fire, his red eyes glowing as his massive, burning aura surrounds him once more. Deep within the dark flames, Kelphil questions why Estrella feels bad for him despite his murderous and malicious intent. Kelphil gently pats her head with a ruffle, mockingly praising the shorty for having more tact than he expected. With a mischievous, dark smile, Kelphil resolves to stir up some serious trouble within the walls of the palace. A blinding flash of light fills the cathedral hall with a loud posh as time finally resumes its flow. Sounding with a rhythmic step, a figure in flowing white robes traverses the grand, white-pillared hallway. 3 robed figures sit in silence within a majestic hall, their meeting centered around a golden patterned table. A sudden open sounds as Uriel, the blue-haired priest, rushes in and apologizes for his late arrival. The gray-haired head priest looks on with calm eyes, gently inviting Uriel to take his seat. Maintaining his dignified posture, the head priest settles into his ornate chair as the important discussion begins. With a solemn expression, the head priest reveals that a divine prophecy was finally received during their prayers. Surprised by the news, the robed men wonder if a massive calamity is about to strike their world. The head priest confirms the grim news, stating that the prophecy specifically spoke of a looming disaster. A dark vision depicts suffering souls and a miasma of madness that only the jeweled eyes can solve. Tension fills the room as the priests process the terrifying implications of the prophecy and the coming darkness. Uriel looks on with concern, questioning if the mentioned seed of calamity refers to a demon's corrupt heart. The red-haired man ponders if the jewels of star power are actually the legendary jeweled eyes of royalty. A noisy chatter erupts among the priests, their voices echoing concerns about demons and the imperial family's lineage. A subtle smile plays on the head priest's lips, suggesting he knows more than he is letting on. The head priest reports that significant news arrived from the imperial palace just yesterday afternoon. Looking through the chandelier, the group discusses a strange phenomenon in the Wyleron territory linked to dark magic. With a thoughtful lift of his hand, the red-haired priest notes the current imperial family lacks jeweled eyes. Turning back toward the group, the head priest mentions he has gathered further information from Uriel's recent mission. Uriel explains that he was dispatched to the imperial palace just a few days prior to these events. The green-haired priestess recalls how the palace urgently demanded a high priest for an immediate medical treatment. A quiet nod follows as Uriel confirms he treated a young child hidden away within the palace walls. A memory surfaces of a pale, blonde girl awakening in a large bed, confused by her strange surroundings. Shock washes over Uriel as he realizes the child he treated is undoubtedly the one from the prophecy. The green-haired woman recalls rumors of a new princess, connecting the pieces of the puzzle together. The realization hits the group that the new imperial princess is the legendary wielder of the jeweled eyes. A firm tap echoes against the table, drawing everyone's attention back to the gravity of the situation. The head priest orders everyone to keep this matter strictly confidential until the truth is fully proven. Clasping their hands in prayer, the priests solemnly swear on God's name to protect the secret. Looking toward a golden light, they conclude that if the child truly possesses the eyes, she must help. The head priest decides to inform the palace and selects Uriel to accompany him as his personal assistant. Uriel bows his head in submission, accepting the weight of the mission assigned to him by his superior. The meeting concludes as the robed figures disperse, each preparing for their journey to the imperial capital. Deep in thought, Estrella wonders about her own identity and the heavy fate that comes with her eyes. A dark history looms over those born with jeweled eyes, showing the tragic ends of past imperial members. The narrative questions if this era can truly be called peaceful when a child faces such a cruel destiny. Estrella gazes off into the distance, her golden jeweled eyes shimmering with a quiet, observant intensity. Tucked away in her massive red bed, the young princess looks small and isolated within her grand room. With a soft lift of the covers, Estrella checks on Longy, while her golden eye glows with power. A warm smile spreads across Estrella's face as she finds comfort in the presence of her small companion. Setting her sights on a new goal, the blonde girl prepares to start her day despite her loneliness. A sudden noise catches Estrella's attention, causing her to pause and look toward the source of the sound. Her maids plead with her to rely on them for help, worried about her climbing down alone. Estrella insists she can manage on her own, while Zion the dragon lets out a soft QQ. With a frustrated pout, the young princess expresses her desire for independence away from the hovering maids. Zion the black dragon lets out a quick flap of his wings, watching his mistress with curiosity. A loud ring 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 sounds as Zion playfully swings on the bedcord, startling the young princess. Shouting for Zion to get down, Estrella panics as the dragon's antics cause the servant bell to ring. A low rumble echoes as Estrella realizes the noise will surely bring the worried maids running back. With a sudden burst, the maids rush into the room, shouting Lady Estrella's name in a state of panic. The brown-haired and freckled maids stand in the doorway, their faces pale with shock at the chaotic scene. The orange-haired maid asks if Estrella is all right, worried that a dangerous person might have approached the young princess. Relieved that no one else was there, the brown-haired and freckled maids share a moment of quiet, visible comfort. Estrella looks to the side with her golden, jeweled eyes shimmering, deeply lost in thought about her current situation. With a curious tilt of her head, the young girl ponders the strange and heavy weight of the word worried. She recalls the blue-haired priest's explanation that worry is like a wavy fog rather than a truly scary emotion. The freckled maid speaks Estrella's name softly, drawing her attention back to the reality of the grand bedroom. Looking hesitant, Estrella admits she doesn't believe she is capable of climbing down from the large red bed alone. The orange-haired maid offers her help, gently lifting the small princess from her seat with a supportive, firm pull. Tarrying Estrella with care, the maid moves away from the bed as they prepare to begin the royal day. Setting the girl down, the maid asks if she wants a meal, mentioning that the emperor is waiting. Estrella's golden eye widens in pure shock at the news that her father is actually waiting to eat with her. With a warm and encouraging smile, The maid suggests they head out together to meet the waiting emperor. The scene shifts to a grand palace office where a massive chandelier hangs over a room filled with maps. Looking irritated, the blonde emperor questions if the head priest's arrival was intended solely to provoke his royal anger. The gray-haired head priest calmly explains that he is merely there to fulfill his duty by delivering a prophecy. While sipping tea, the priest suggests it would be safer for the jeweled eye wielder to stay within the temple. The emperor argues that the palace is her home, while the priest warns of the tragic history of royal wielders. A sudden, loud slam echoes through the room as the emperor strikes the table in a burst of frustration. He demands to know if the temple has hidden motives for wanting to take his daughter away from the palace. The head priest notices the emperor's unwavering resolve, realizing that taking the child will be a difficult mission. Refusing the priest's offer, the emperor demands that high priests be dispatched to the Weileron territory to handle the crisis. The head priest bows his head in submission, agreeing to send volunteers for the sake of the empire's lasting peace. He reminds the emperor that the prophecy specifically requires the jeweled eye wielder to travel to the Weileron territory. Dismissing the priest's claims as nonsense, the emperor stares down at the world map spread across the large table. Enraged, the emperor stands up as his magic causes objects to float, questioning the safety of an 8-year-old child. His blue eyes flash with a cold, murderous light as he asks the head priest if he seeks his death. The head priest reflects on the rarity of an emperor possessing such a massive and overwhelming level of divine power. He warns that the jeweled eyes delude people, inevitably drawing dangerous greed and malice toward the young princess. A sharp clench of the emperor's gloved hand betrays his tension as the priest mentions the horrific end of past wielders. A dark vision depicts how ruby-jeweled eyes were once used to forge weapons of war from their wielder's blood. The tragic history continues, showing how the aquamarine wielder's healing gifts led to kidnapping and their eventual desperate suicide. Haunted by greed, the story reveals a blue-eyed wielder who chose death after one of their eyes was stolen. The diamond-eyed second prince was chained and imprisoned by the emperor to prevent him from taking his own life. Stripped of all dignity and authority, the chained prince was even mistreated and touched by his own royal brother. The empire's golden age is revealed to be a dark period built entirely upon the horrific sacrifice of one person. The emperor worries that his daughter will meet a similar tragic end at the hands of those who seek power. The head priest insists that the child must be kept hidden within the church to avoid exposure to the world. Looking up at the ornate chandelier, the emperor remains deeply distrustful of the temple's motives for wanting his child. The head priest attempts to return to the Weileron crisis, but the emperor refuses to let Estrella go there. The priest suggests that sacrificing a child might be a necessary burden for the ruler of such a great empire. Ending the meeting, the emperor dismisses the priest while reflecting on the heavy, tragic fate of past jeweled eye wielders. A sudden toss sounds as a teacup flies through the air, narrowly missing the head priest's face in anger. A sharp crack echoes as the porcelain shatters against the wall, highlighting the emperor's explosive and barely contained rage. High above the floor, a small orange cat sleeps peacefully on the ledge of a massive, golden palace wardrobe. Estrella demonstrates her stubborn independence by climbing the towering golden furniture to reach her sleeping pet and companion. The maids are visibly horrified, pleading with the young princess to come down before she falls and gets injured. Declaring that she can manage, Estrella ignores the danger and continues her precarious ascent as the maids watch in terror. Two men, Coregion and an older butler walk through the hallway and notice the frantic commotion from the distance. Sir Coregion rushes toward the scene, demanding to know what is causing such a frantic disturbance within the palace. With a sudden panic dash, the butler races toward the stairs as he catches sight of the climbing princess. Determined to reach her pet, Lady Estrella scales a tall golden cabinet while her maids panic below. A quick tap sounds as she finds a foothold, explaining that her orange cat, Yellowy, is stranded aloft. With a sudden grab, Sir Coregion catches the princess, lifting her away from the precarious golden pillar. The black-haired knight holds her securely, though she indignantly demands to be released from his grip immediately. Relieved but firm, Coregion refuses to let her go, explaining that such climbing is far too dangerous. He holds the startled girl close, promising to retrieve the cat himself to prevent her from falling. Shocked by the knight's sudden intervention and blunt warning, Estrella stares with wide, golden, jeweled eyes. The young princess falls into a quiet silence, her shimmering golden eye reflecting deep, mysterious thoughts. Holding Estrella and her cat, Coregion informs the concerned butler that he doesn't have any younger siblings. Looking directly at her savior, Estrella calls out Coregion's name, her eyes glowing with an intense inner light. She insists on being set down, remembering her urgent appointment to eat a meal with her father. A soft sit echoes as Coregion kneels, gently returning the princess to the floor as she requested. Within his dark office, the blonde emperor broods in silence, dismissing his previous guests with cold authority. A rhythmic knock-knock sounds against the ornate palace doors, interrupting the emperor's heavy, solitary thoughts. The doors swing open to welcome Lady Estrella, catching the emperor's attention and sparking a flicker of surprise. A sudden bang resonates through the room as the head priest reacts to the princess's unexpected, powerful arrival. Radiating a golden whoosh of divine power, the emperor stands, his eyes masked by an intimidating, magical shadow. From the doorway, a small voice calls out for his attention, cutting through the tense atmosphere of the office. Softening instantly, the emperor's cold demeanor vanishes as he warmly invites his daughter to come inside. Narration reveals how the emperor learned to suppress all emotion after receiving the star's overwhelming power. Clinging to her orange cat, Estrella cautiously peeks through the massive doors into the grand, map-filled room. She enters with a curious peek, her bright golden eyes scanning the unfamiliar surroundings and the robed priest. Noticing the child, the gray-haired head priest lets out a quick stand, visibly unsettled by her presence. He is awestruck, realizing that he has never witnessed such a massive concentration of pure divine power. A sharp stand sounds as the emperor rises from his maps, focused entirely on his small daughter. Moving with sudden grace, he kneels with a soft sit, asking Estrella what has brought her there. Glancing away shyly, she explains that her maids, Siren and Bella, sent her to find her food. She continues her explanation, telling him that she was instructed to eat her meal with her father. Realizing he lost track of time, the emperor listens as Estrella notes that being hungry is painful. With a gentle pat-pat, he strokes her hair, thanking her for sparing him from that hunger. A warm smile braces Estrella's face as her father expresses his genuine gratitude for her timely visit. Her expression shifts as she begins to ask a question, glancing toward the silent, robed head priest. Standing nearby, the head priest remains frozen in confusion, wondering about the true identity of the child. Hesitating, the blonde girl tries again to speak her mind, still focused on the mysterious gray-haired man. The head priest continues to watch in stunned silence, unable to reconcile the scene with his expectations. A fierce glare from the emperor punctuates his demand to know why the priest has not yet departed. Bewildered by the emperor's lightning-fast shift back to hostility, the priest stands there in awkward, silent confusion. Softening his voice, the emperor asks to hold his daughter, who questions how long it will last. He promises to carry her only to the couch, and with a small nod, Estrella agrees to be held. Before being lifted, the princess crouches down to carefully place her orange cat safely on the floor. She reaches her small arms upward, inviting her father to lift her into his strong, protective embrace. Looking down at her, the emperor's face is filled with a rare, tender smile meant only for her. A gentle lift follows as he carries his daughter, marveling at the pure, honest expression on her face. With a light hop, he sets her down on the plush red couch, her cat jumping up beside her. The emperor informs the priest that once she is officially registered, she will be the empire's youngest princess. Contemplating the news, the head priest looks away, his mind racing with the implications of the family register. Settling onto the couch with a soft sit, the emperor tells the priest to seek Estrella's permission first. The priest crouches before her, greeting the imperial princess, but Estrella firmly corrects him about her title. When he asks what name he should use, the young girl simply identifies herself as Estrella. He agrees to call her Lady Estrella, though she irreverently dismisses the formality by calling him Gramps. A soft rub sounds as the flustered head priest admits being called Gramps is unsettling before requesting a favor. A firm hold betrays Estrella's protectiveness as she flatly refuses to give her cat, Yellowy, to the priest. A sharp turn from the emperor follows the head priest's desperate glance as the old man silently pleads for help. The head priest clarifies that he has no intention of taking her pet, prompting a skeptical question from the girl. When the priest asks to see her jeweled eyes up close, the young princess responds with curious and guarded hesitation. A sudden, sharp clench of her small hand reflects Estrella's internal tension as she considers the priest's suspicious request. Watching his daughter's reaction closely, the blonde emperor wonders what has caused her sudden and visible distress. Noticing her apprehension, the robed priest attempts to reassure the child by asking if he truly seems like an evil person. Closing his eyes with a hand to his chest, the head priest pledges his divine loyalty to prove his intentions. The emperor is startled when Estrella reveals a friend warned her about those who seek to see her jeweled eyes. Confirming her story, Estrella identifies her warning friend as the same one who previously assisted her with a bath. The emperor listens intently as his daughter explains that she must hide her precious eyes from bad people. Lost in thought, the emperor realizes that the mysterious spirit friend might actually be trying to protect the young princess. He reflects on how the girl's guardian taught her the essential lessons needed to survive in a world of greed. The emperor gently asks to see her eyes himself, promising to keep the old priest at a safe distance. Hiding her face behind her small hands, Estrella considers whether she should trust her father with her most guarded secret. Reassured by her father's promise of safety, the young girl questions if he truly is an exception to the rule. Estrella acknowledges that her father has provided her with a name, a home, and food, proving his genuine care. Touched by her simple logic, the emperor offers a quiet word of thanks as he prepares to see her again. A sudden pull sounds as Estrella roughly grabs her hair, prompting her father to reach out and stop her. A gentle lift follows as the emperor carefully moves her golden locks aside to reveal her hidden jeweled eyes. Looking down at his daughter, the emperor's cold expression melts into a rare, truly affectionate and peaceful smile. High above the palace grounds, a hooded figure sits silently on a sturdy tree branch, watching from the shadows. Clad in gleaming silver armor and a red cape, the stoic knight orders a subordinate to move an item. The pink-haired woman suggests a test, while the knight notes their captain's exceptionally stern and stoic nature. A sudden drop sounds as the hooded figure leaps from the tree, confident that their actions will go unnoticed. A sharp crackle resonates as red energy surges around the hooded figure, who smugly declares their sinister task complete. The hooded man reveals a face marked with red streaks, his green eyes reflecting a dark, unsettling sense of satisfaction. Cloaked in shadows, the mysterious figure walks forward as swirling red magic trails behind his every deliberate step. The black-haired knight suddenly pauses, his sharp blue eyes narrowing as if sensing an unwelcome and dangerous presence nearby. Approaching with a deceptive smile, the hooded stranger offers a polite greeting to get the knight's immediate attention. While kneeling before his daughter, the emperor decides that trimming her hair is necessary to keep her eyes visible. The head priest reflects on the bloody history of jeweled eyes, sensing an overwhelming and dangerous level of power. Confusion clouds Estrella's face as the priest insists she must travel to the dangerous Wirelon territory, despite the risks. The priest warns that the presence of a demon heart makes the young princess's divine power even more essential. A protective cover sounds as the emperor shields his daughter's eyes, threatening military force to silence the priest. Unfazed by the threat, the head priest argues that the ancient prophecy demands the princess's unique and sacred abilities. The emperor offers to go himself, but the priest insists that her sacred blessing will protect her from harm. Ancient knowledge reveals that jewel eyes can perceive things invisible to others, like luck, pain, and the blood of men. A menacing energy radiates from the blonde emperor as his divine aura flares with a silent, terrifying warning. Realizing that further provocation will only lead to disaster, the head priest decides to retreat for the time being. A deep bow punctuates the head priest's departure as he respectfully asks to be excused from the tense audience. The priest walks toward the grand exit while the emperor remains focused entirely on comforting his small, golden-eyed daughter. A soft touch accompanies the emperor's gentle gazing at her father. Estrella softly observes that his current expression and inner turmoil look incredibly painful to bear. A rhythmic pat sounds as the young princess affectionately strokes her father's head, mirroring the way one comforts a child. Estrella tells her father that his anger is too loud and painful, pleading with him to stay calm. A sweet, innocent smile lights up her face as she confirms her desire for peace within their royal home. A warm hug follows as the emperor pulls his daughter close, his face softening with a mixture of love and sorrow. Tucked safely within her father's protective embrace, Estrella looks up with eyes that shimmer with an otherworldly golden light. Embracing his daughter, the emperor dreads the painful, abnormal future her divine eyes will inevitably force her to endure. A soft pat sounds as the emperor holds his child tightly, offering comfort through the warmth of his presence. The golden-haired princess rests securely in her father's arms, unaware of the heavy burdens weighing on his mind. Tucking her face against the white fur of his robe, the princess finds a fleeting moment of peaceful sanctuary. In the dense forest, the black-haired knight suddenly pauses, sensing something amiss among the quiet, sun-dappled trees. A sharp lift follows as a mysterious hand retrieves a scroll, with an off-screen voice claiming to be a lost worker. The brown-haired boy with striking green eyes offers a flustered smile, feigning helplessness as he explains his presence.
While the knight remains skeptical, the hooded boy insists he received permission to enter the restricted forest grounds alone.
A sudden slide sounds as the stranger's hand moves toward the knight's helm, a bright flash of magic erupting. Blue lightning surges through the air as the hooded attacker launches a magical assault, catching the stoic knight off guard. A rhythmic pull sounds as the black-haired knight reaches for his sword, his blue eyes narrowing with lethal intent. With a fierce swing and a sharp slash, the knight retaliates, the force of his blow cutting through the air. When the knight demands his identity, the mysterious green-eyed stranger evasively claims he doesn't even know himself.
The hooded boy observes that the knight's armor holds divine power, prompting a cautious warning about the intensity of combat.
Swirling with menacing red energy, the stranger questions who gave the knight such a specific warning about his sacred armor. The black-haired knight refuses to reveal his source, imbuing his blade with a brilliant, swirling blue sword energy. Sensing the knight is no average opponent, the intruder watches as the knight's red cape flutters amidst the flaring power. A sharp swing sounds as the hooded boy marvels at the immense blessings bestowed upon the knights of this land. Dodging another heavy swing, the intruder mockingly asks if the knight intends to kill him without any further questioning. A sudden slash and a soft shh sound as the stranger considers the consequences of using his full strength. With a light hop, the boy retreats, claiming he only intended a harmless prank before the situation turned deadly. He reflects on his failed plan to plant a corrupting seed within the palace, admitting he chose the wrong target. A sudden dash follows as the knight strikes again, ignoring the stranger's desperate plea for him to act more gently. A bright flare of energy erupts as the knight persists, his cold determination unwavering despite the intruder's chaotic red magic. A sharp swing sounds as the stranger questions the knight's sanity, feeling a sudden shiver as he considers ending their game. Far away, the young princess gazes forward, her golden eye gleaming with an intensity that matches the coming storm.
The hooded stranger smiles cryptically, acknowledging that he now possesses the answers he was seeking regarding the knight's strength.
A powerful pull sounds as the knight prepares a devastating strike, his face a mask of absolute, icy focus. A soft float follows as the stranger lingers in the air, curiously asking if a sparkly-eyed child warned the knight. A sudden swing and a sharp ack sound as the knight's blade narrowly misses the evasive, magical intruder. Moving with a sudden surge of speed, the knight charges forward again, his sword shimmering with a potent blue aura. A loud crackle resonates as red magic explodes, prompting the knight to demand the true identity of his persistent foe. The green-eyed man muses that Jubar's child will be troublesome before deciding to leave her alone for his amusement. With a sudden pop, the intruder vanishes into thin air, leaving the black-haired knight alone in the silent forest. The pink-haired knight arrives, listening as her leader orders a close watch on the princess and prepares his report. Rhythmic steps sound as the knight walks away, his mind troubled by the strange questions the intruder posed. He reflects on how a simple inquiry about the princess managed to disturb his usually unshakable and stoic composure. The scene shifts to a massive library filled with countless dusty records and ancient, towering bookshelves. Working diligently among stacks of books, the red-haired woman reports her findings on corrupted magic stones to the emperor. The researcher complains about her isolation in the record room, though the blonde emperor remains focused only on the mission. She explains the difficulty of finding old records, questioning why the emperor needs such specific and dangerous information. The emperor reveals the stones are causing a violent madness in Wyleron territory, turning people and beasts into monsters. A soft slide sounds as the researcher asks about the victim's consciousness, learning of the agony that follows their madness. A quick tap sounds as she highlights the territory's dire state, noting how drastically the ancient records differ. She reveals a recent record about a ruby-eyed wielder who visited a village plagued by demonic, miasmic darkness. The blonde emperor is visibly startled, his eyes widening at the unexpected mention of another wielder of jeweled eyes. Illustrated pages describe how the ruby-eyed hero used a special sword to cut the corrupting magic stone in half. The ancient texts detail a miraculous recovery, where the terminally ill regained consciousness after the miasma was finally cleared. The red-haired scholar continues, noting that the legendary wielder eventually took his powers to the endless battlefield. A soft lift follows as the emperor learns the record is incomplete, leaving him in frustrated, silent contemplation. The scholar explains magic stones are invisible to humans and contain demon souls that must be summoned. With a serious expression, the red-haired researcher warns that the summoning method is incredibly dangerous and risky. The emperor is visibly horrified when the scholar reveals that the summoning process requires a human sacrifice. The distressed emperor clutches his head, struggling with the weight of the dark revelation regarding the stones. The scholar turns the page while noting that death row inmates were historically used for these dark rituals. The emperor is stunned to learn that ancient records document rituals requiring up to 127 sacrifices. Sensing his hesitation, the scholar asks if his current concerns are centered on the young, airy princess, Estrella. The emperor notes Jaren's recent absence, learning the boy has been hiding in his room since the past incident. Despite the emperor's protective stance, the scholar insists that Estrella's powers are vital for the mission at hand. A heavy sigh escapes the emperor as the scholar suggests letting priests handle the task after Estrella finds it. The emperor reflects on the suffocating burden of his title, feeling the pressure to choose duty over family. He wonders if it is selfish to simply want his daughter to grow up in peaceful happiness. The emperor realizes that he orders more research on the Airy clan while the red-haired woman diligently returns to her stacks of books. Jaren stands holding a small rabbit, facing questions from his brother about why he chose such an unusual pet. Dismissing the inquiry as none of his brother's business, Jaren finishes his lessons and prepares to leave. The scene shifts to the long, ornate palace corridor, where sunlight filters through the high windows. Rhythmic steps sound as Jaren walks down the hall, determined to give Estrella the rabbit he found while hunting. Jaren peeks into the room and calls out to Estrella, who warmly invites him to enter. Surprised by her brother's sudden appearance, Estrella looks up with a look of mild confusion. She asks the reason for his visit as Jaren approaches her with a nervous but hopeful expression. Her face lights up with pure joy as she spots the bunny Jaren is holding in his arms. Jaren cautiously allows Estrella to pet the soft animal, warning her to be gentle so it won't get hurt. The rabbit jumps as the children interact, creating a moment of innocent play between the siblings. Giggling happily, Estrella sits on the floor to play with the brown and white rabbit. Jaren watches his sister with a soft smile, pleased that his gift has brought her such genuine delight. He tells Estrella she can keep the bunny, calling it a special present just for her. Surrounded by roses, Jaren admits that he gave her the gift because he wants to become closer to her. Estrella gratefully accepts the gift as Jaren suggests they spend more time together as a family. Sitting together, Jaren explains that giving gifts is a way to make someone feel truly happy. Estrella gazes at her new pet, while a distant voice calls out for her to come down. With an excited jump, Jaren promises to return soon after he gets the necessary permission from Heron. Elsewhere, the light blue-haired spirit observes his surroundings and notes that the person he seeks is not there. Workers in the palace courtyard move heavy logs as the scene shifts back to the interior. Searching the area, the spirit wonders where the girl has gone, his long blue hair flowing behind him. A rhythmic thump sounds as the spirit senses Estrella's heartbeat approaching, noticing her companion and the black creature. The spirit's expression hardens as he considers killing the evil thing accompanying the child, but hesitates for her sake. Walking through the woods, Estrella curiously asks Jaren why he seems to have grown since their last meeting. Jaren calls out to Estrella while she stands near the black dragon creature among the sunlit trees. The light blue-haired spirit appears, his face partially shown as he greets the young princess. A quick kneel and a sudden dash follow as Estrella runs toward the spirit with a joyful expression. A warm hug ensues as Estrella throws her arms around the spirit, who welcomes her with open arms. Jaren stands frozen in shock, still holding the black creature as he watches the unfamiliar man embrace his sister. The spirit asks if the blonde boy is her brother, his blue eyes showing a hint of curiosity. Brushing off the spirit's presence, Jaren demands to know the identity of the mysterious stranger. Jaren feels completely ignored as Estrella and the spirit celebrate their reunion, making him wonder who the man is. Noticing his confusion, Estrella looks back at Jaren and asks him what is wrong. Tucking her face against the spirit's robe, she introduces her otherworldly companion simply as her friend. The spirit calls her name, and Estrella confirms it with a radiant, happy smile. He notes that she has finally received a name, holding her close in a moment of quiet affection. A sudden construction site fills the spirit's view as he realizes that Estrella no longer resides in the abandoned manor. Gazing at the structure, the spirit promises to return when it snows, leaving his young friend to wonder about his motives. Fearing abandonment, Estrella begs her friend to stay, but the spirit reassures her that he can simply find her new home. Jaren stands forgotten in the forest, watching the two and deciding he must report this mysterious encounter to his father. Kneeling before the princess, the spirit tells her to get permission to see him while he remains waiting in the woods. With a gentle gaze, the light blue-haired spirit mentions that he only recently woke up earlier this year to find her. Estrella gives a joyful laugh as a small, light blue snake slithers playfully from beneath the collar of her dress. The spirit decides to bypass the need for permission by entering the snake, leaving Estrella curious about his plan for Longy. Holding the sleeping blue snake, Estrella explains that she has been trying to keep her tiny, chilly companion warm every day. The spirit looks at her with a soft, surprised expression, touched by her innocent effort to provide warmth for the creature. He explains that the current environment is unsuitable for him, promising the snake will thrive if they stay together. Beaming with delight, Estrella observes that Longy seems to genuinely enjoy the affection she gives him. Rubbing his eyes, the spirit admits he has reached his limit for the day as his presence begins to grow weary. Estrella offers him snacks while he explains that waking up early to see her has left him feeling incredibly sleepy. The spirit's ethereal form begins to fade, transforming into a trail of energy that flows into the small snake in her hands. Watching from the trees, Jaren finds his sister's intense attachment to the stranger odd and resolves to inform their father. The scene shifts to the interior of a massive palace hallway adorned with ornate gold fixtures and classical paintings. Karajan, the black-haired knight, arrives with a formal report announcing that he has successfully located the elusive midwife. Looking exhausted from his duties, the blonde emperor sits at his desk and commands his loyal knight to begin the report. Hearing the midwife assisted with the royal births, the emperor orders Karajan to bring her to the palace without delay. Karajan's expression turns serious as he reveals there is a significant complication regarding the midwife's current whereabouts. The emperor clutches his forehead in distress, immediately asking if the woman has fallen ill or suffered some calamity. Karajan explains that the midwife's hometown is located deep within the demon-infested and dangerous Wyleron territory. A sudden lift sounds as the emperor reacts with shock, fearing the midwife might have contracted the region's mysterious illness. Karajan notes the woman avoided the sickness after receiving early warnings from her family, much faster than official imperial reports. The emperor asks if Karajan himself ventured into the Wyleron territory, his face a mask of worry for his commander's safety. Karajan reports a tracking knight showed symptoms, but assures the emperor his elite forces are well-trained for every possible situation. The emperor reflects on how destiny seems to be pulling young Estrella toward the crisis, feeling the weight of impending choices. Karajan asks if there are plans to send the princess to Wyleron, seeking clarification on the emperor's ultimate intention. Letting out a heavy sigh, the emperor struggles to decide the right path for both the empire and his child. With absolute conviction, Karajan swears on his life that he will ensure the princess's safety, regardless of the danger. The emperor confesses his deep anxiety regarding the harsh and cruel world his young daughter will soon be forced to witness. Karajan reaffirms his unwavering loyalty, promising to protect Estrella with the same dedication he has shown to the emperor himself. The emperor admits he is grateful to have at least one person he can truly trust with Estrella's life. To solve the crisis, the emperor orders a journey to Wyleron, while Karajan plans to mobilize over half his elite knights. Feeling a touch of urgency, the emperor decides he must personally witness the situation in the territory alongside his daughter. Despite Karajan's warnings about duty, the emperor insists on going, planning to leave government affairs to the returning empress. He orders the temple to send high priests for assistance while preparing to bring Estrella along for the dangerous mission. The emperor commands a transmission magic circle, prioritizing the protection of his weak child over the massive resources required. Karajan is visibly stunned, sweating as he considers the immense strain and danger involved in utilizing such powerful transportation magic. Acknowledging the command, the black-haired knight states he will immediately notify the Grand Chamberlain of the upcoming expedition. The emperor gives final instructions to gather and adequately prepare the most elite knights for the difficult mission ahead. Looking stern, the emperor emphasizes that Karajan must guard both Estrella and the midwife without fail during their journey. Karajan turns and walks down the tiled palace corridor, his mind focused on the monumental and risky task before him. He suddenly stops in his tracks, his blue eyes widening as he encounters the young prince standing in the doorway. Jaren looks surprised, asking if Karajan has finally finished his long and serious discussion with his father. A sudden clack sounds as Jaren calls out to his father, who answers from inside that he is always working. Jaren begins to recount his visit to the abandoned castle with Estrella, intending to share the strange encounter they had. The boy suddenly trails off into silence, his expression clouding as he feels the vital memory slipping from his mind. Jaren clutches his head in frustration, completely unable to remember the important information he was trying to tell his father. Jaren clutches his head in distress, realizing he has made a grave mistake by forgetting his vital report. The Emperor watches as the black-haired knight departs, his presence silhouetted against the Grand Palace doorway. A firm nod from the black-haired knight signals the end of their meeting as he prepares to leave. A sharp clack sounds as the ornate palace doors swing shut, leaving the Emperor alone with his thoughts. The Emperor questions Jaren about their visit to the abandoned castle, while the boy expresses his deep regret. Noting Jaren's exhaustion, the Emperor gently instructs his son to retire for the day and get some rest. Looking weary and slightly confused, Jaren dutifully accepts his father's command to leave the royal study. Jaren walks away with a heavy heart, his shadow stretching across the polished floor of the massive corridor. Estrella gazes over a golden balcony, her yellow eyes wide with curiosity at the bustling palace below. The young princess stands in her ruffled white nightgown, her long blonde hair cascading down her back. A mysterious purple-haired man manifests from a swirl of dark energy, offering a casual greeting to the girl. Startled by the sudden intrusion, Estrella nervously asks the purple-haired stranger to identify himself. A rhythmic growl sounds from the black creature while the man walks past, laughing at the princess's cuteness. Baron Silladin introduces himself to the girl just as a stern voice declares that entry is forbidden there. The Grand Chamberlain intercedes, ordering the Baron to leave and warning that only authorized guests may enter. With a suspicious glare, the Grand Chamberlain demands to know why the Baron has been searching every floor. The investigation continues as the Chamberlain questions the Baron's motives for climbing to the highest level. Kneeling beside the princess, the Grand Chamberlain asks if she is all right after her encounter with the Baron. An orange cat stretches lazily near the black dragon, while a nearby voice suggests a walk before dinner. Light glimmers off a massive chandelier above a desk covered in scrolls and a rich red tablecloth. The Emperor glances over his documents, his expression turning cold as he senses a shift in the atmosphere. Perrin discusses complex tax issues with Marquis Kelpie, who wonders if the Emperor is truly paying attention to his report.
Infuriated by the Marquise's questioning, the Emperor orders him to leave immediately, sparking a moment of intense shock.
Marquis Kelpie stares in disbelief, stunned that the Emperor would use a formal order just to expel him. A rhythmic knock sounds through the room as the Marquis prepares to depart following the tense confrontation. The Emperor suddenly slumps toward the Marquis, causing the black-haired man to cry out in startled alarm. Heron kneels by the door to greet Estrella, admitting he is starving and ready for their meal. Marquis Kelpie offers a formal greeting to the princess, apologizing for their lack of a proper introduction earlier. Smiling warmly, the Marquis encourages Estrella to use his name, though she cutely struggles with the pronunciation. A cluster of rare yellow berries is shown as the Marquis explains the unique flora of his territory. The Emperor rests his chin on his hand, curiously asking Estrella for her honest opinion of Marquis Kelpie. Heron leads Estrella toward the dining hall, both looking forward to sharing a meal together as a family. Upon hearing that Leona is also joining them for dinner, Estrella's eyes light up with curious excitement. The young girl expresses her preference for calling the Emperor by a special name compared to her sister. A panicked maid calls out for Asia as the Emperor suddenly realizes something is amiss in the palace. Rubbing his forehead, Heron asks for the Queen's location after hearing reports of riders leaping over walls. Ornate palace architecture fills the view, while voices confirm their location within the royal dining room. With a weary sigh, the Emperor prepares to deal with the new crisis brewing within the palace walls. The scene shifts back to the closed white doors as the atmosphere grows heavy with anticipation. A sudden thump sounds as the Emperor kneels to check on Estrella before they meet their guest. Heron asks if the girl is prepared to meet the guest waiting inside, while she looks on nervously. A magical red mist begins to swirl and sparkle in front of the ornate palace entrance. The glowing red energy intensifies, manifesting as a shimmering barrier before the young princess's wide eyes. A hot sensation surprises Estrella as she realizes the magical mist is far more intense than she expected. Red-haired Leona sits alone at the long table, framed by the red energy as the doors open. Sensing an arrival, the red-haired woman looks up from the table with an expression of mild surprise. Leona smiles warmly at Estrella, remarking on how much time has passed since their last encounter. Overwhelmed by the meeting, the princess clasps her hands together and offers a timid, blushing greeting. Estrella continues to act shyly, her face turning pink as she greets her older sister with hesitation. A bright laugh erupts from Leona as she finds her little sister's reaction truly charming and cute. A sudden clatter sounds as Selena stands up from the table, immediately commanding the room's attention. A soft thud sounds as Selena sits back down, inviting the young princess to call her by name. Leaning in with curiosity, Selena asks for the child's name, receiving a shy and blushing response from Estrella. After Selena praises the beautiful name, Estrella proudly explains that her father was the one who gave it. Selena explains her role as the emperor's wife, suggesting she will eventually become a mother figure to Estrella. Confusion clouds Estrella's face as she softly reminds the woman that her own biological mother has already passed. A sudden gasp sounds as Selena sternly advises that using casual titles like mommy is considered quite rude. A quick rustle sounds as Estrella turns in distress, worrying if she has accidentally insulted her new companions. Heron gently reassures his young daughter, acknowledging that she simply didn't know the proper protocols of the palace. Looking uncertain and slightly nervous, Estrella asks what titles she should use if the familiar ones are forbidden. Selena softens her stance, telling Estrella she can choose between calling her mom or simply using her name. Estrella curiously asks if having two mothers is acceptable, seeking validation for her new and complicated family situation. With a firm nod, Selena confirms that any child of Elias is essentially her own, welcoming Estrella fully. A sharp clack sounds as Selena playfully suggests calling the emperor uncle, leaving Heron visibly stunned and speechless. A sharp gasp sounds as Heron reacts in total shock, while Selena lets out a quiet, mischievous kiki. Resting her chin on her hand, Selena admits she is thoroughly enjoying the emperor's rare look of pure disbelief. Selena reaches out to admire Estrella's beauty, noting her striking resemblance to her late biological mother during dinner. Startled, Estrella asks how Selena knew her mother, learning she was depicted in a personal journal and drawings. A vision of a woman with sky blue hair and golden eyes appears as Selena describes her meek personality. A gentle caress follows as Selena promises more stories later, refocusing their attention on the delicious meal ahead. Noticing Estrella is full, Selena discusses saving the leftovers and ordering fresh crayfish for the child tomorrow morning. Selena offers a knowing look, while Heron observes that she seems to possess a natural talent for children. Heron recalls Selena raising his other children, but notes that Estrella is a far more unique and different case. Selena remarks on how much Heron has changed, causing the flustered emperor to look away with mild embarrassment. Selena notices the blue snake hiding in Heron's sleeve, which stares back with an eerily human-like intensity. Intrigued by the creature, Heron asks the princess for a closer look at her unusual and mysterious pet, Longy. Estrella reaches across the table to present her pet, while Heron prepares to inspect the blue snake's behavior. A rhythmic hiss sounds as Longy aggressively stretches toward Heron, baring its fangs in a fierce defensive display. Startled by the hostile reaction, Estrella innocently concludes that Longy must not be very fond of her father. A sudden pfft sounds as Selena breaks into laughter, witnessing Heron struggling to win over a tiny snake. Heron asks how she intends to fix the situation, but Selena only teases him with playful, mocking indifference. Wearing a confident smirk, Selena reminds Heron that he must earn the things he truly wants on his own. A soft clatter sounds as Selena stands up, instructing Estrella to return to her room for a private talk. Standing up, Selena kindly offers to escort the young princess to the dining room's massive ornate exit. A heavy thud sounds as the door closes, while Selena waves goodbye and tells Estrella to be careful. The atmosphere shifts to serious business as Selena reports on her recent investigation into the demon-infested Wyleron territory. Heron lets out a heavy sigh as Selena details how rumors are spreading through merchants and traders alike. Selena drops a bombshell, revealing that she has brought a mysterious and unnamed guest along with her today. Heron looks on with suspicion and worry, demanding to know the identity of the person Selena has brought. Selena orders the removal of a gag from a red-haired boy who looks on with wide, fearful eyes. Selena explains that the child's memories were likely erased because of his mother's lineage within the Air tribe. A red-haired man gestures while discussing the complicated social standings and abilities of the people in the territory. Heron listens intently as the red-haired man admits his discomfort regarding the secrets they are currently uncovering together. Dark, ethereal imagery depicts the Air tribe, a family bound by blood and the duty to monitor one another. The red-haired man explains how the tribe survives through memory, while Heron and Selena absorb the grim details. Walking away, Estrella's silhouette is framed by stars, as Selena discusses the self-contained nature of the Air people. A blue-haired woman is shown bound in heavy chains, illustrating the tribe's cruel treatment of those labeled traitors. A sharp gasp sounds as Heron reacts in shock to the news that the Air can hear feelings. A hooded man appears as Heron questions the legend of the Air tribe's supposed immortality and ancient history. The blue-haired woman prays amidst red flowers, as the narration details the tribe's tragic method of ending life. The Aerie clan's tragic fate is revealed. They perish if they bear a child with an outsider. Heron rubs his forehead in deep distress, visibly burdened by the dark secrets of the Air tribe. Death is regarded as a peaceful release for the clan, as they long for the tranquility of the afterlife. Urban ponders the mother's true feelings, wondering how she felt about the child she left behind. Heron suggests that while she felt pity, her longing for death was likely an even stronger force. Urban leans against the wall, reminding Heron that the information they are uncovering is far from positive. Asking about memory recovery, Urban is met with the suggestion that some things are better left forgotten. Urban argues that recovering his memories is the only way to truly understand the young child's mysterious past. A tense silence falls as Urban questions the necessity of revisiting such painful and haunting recollections. Heron calls out Urban's name, his expression serious as they navigate the weight of their shared discovery. Urban turns to leave, noting he lacks the kind-hearted nature shared by Heron and the princess. Preparing to visit his nephews, Urban suggests postponing the discussion about the demon-infested Wyleron territory. Leona rests a hand on Heron's shoulder, dismissively remarking on how tiresome Urban continues to be. Heron holds her hand and agrees to move forward, seeking another way to handle the mounting work. The blonde princess praises Jaren's cleverness for winning Estrella over with a simple bunny during their meeting. A chaotic moment ensues as Derek is pulled away, labeled the only pitiful one among the siblings. Snacks are laid out as the siblings discuss how Estrella is both incredibly cute and deeply pitiful. A memory shows Estrella laughing joyfully while hugging a rabbit, appearing truly happy only around animals. The blonde princess considers inviting Estrella for a picnic or even to the hunting grounds, worrying Jaren. Contemplating more gentle options, the blonde princess thinks a trip to a farm might be better. Jaren suggests they use their allowances to build a private petting zoo just for their new sister. A sudden clatter at the door interrupts their planning, and they eagerly anticipate Estrella's arrival. The blonde princess turns with a wide, welcoming smile, ready to greet the young girl. Her smile quickly fades into a frown as she asks what her uncle is doing at the door. Urban stands in the doorway, unimpressed by the reaction from the one he calls the second brat. Walking into the room, Urban notes the eldest's absence, while Jaren asks if it is finally snack time. The blonde princess firmly warns Urban not to steal the seat reserved for its rightful owner. A soft, rhythmic knock sounds at the door, causing Urban to wonder about the maid's unusual politeness. Urban opens the door to investigate, but he is met with an unexpected and puzzling sight. The long palace hallway appears completely empty, leaving the red-haired man standing in bewildered silence. The children dash past Urban with excitement, shouting a warm welcome to Estrella as she finally appears. Clenching her hands, the young girl looks up with wide golden eyes, appearing nervous and shy. Urban looks on with a sweat drop, thinking he hadn't planned on meeting the child quite so soon. The siblings crowd around Estrella with warm greetings, leaving the flustered Urban feeling ignored in the background. They begin to lead the girl away, focusing entirely on their new companion's arrival. Stepping forward, Urban admits Estrella is a little cute and wonders if he should try to talk. Urban approaches the seated girl and offers a greeting, identifying himself as her new uncle. Noticing her silence, Urban asks Jaren if he has already spoken to her, seeking a way in. Urban leans in close to address the girl again, but she remains quiet and seemingly distant. Estrella finally speaks, bluntly telling Urban that he is the one who actually hates her. A heavy, shocking atmosphere settles over the room as her words leave everyone stunned into silence. The blonde princess tries to break the tension, quickly asking Estrella if she has questions for Jaren. Curiously, Estrella asks how Jaren and Leona managed to grow so much larger in such short time. Rummaging through her dress, the blonde princess explains the power of the imperial family's special star remnants. She presents a glowing pendant, explaining that it accelerates their growth and belongs to their family. Smiling warmly, she welcomes Estrella as part of the family, promising she will receive her own soon. A sharp smack sounds as the blonde princess hits Urban for trying to sneak away from snack time. Estrella's eyes sparkle with pure delight as she gazes upon the massive plate of delicious cookies. Observing her smile, Urban wonders if her earlier bluntness truly meant she doesn't like him. Bella the maid comforts Estrella, humbly admitting she needed help from the kitchen staff for the treats. A finger points to a bear-shaped cookie, noting that the head chef, Joseph, made the cutest treats. Holding a bear cookie, the blonde princess finds it adorable, while learning Joseph also makes her favorite crayfish. Leaning on his hand, the red-haired Urban casually asks Estrella if she has a fondness for animals. Turning away, the blonde girl happily asks if she is allowed to eat the bunny-shaped cookie she's holding. Bella confirms she made the bunny cookie, as she notes that the young princess ignored her uncle again. Staring at the snack, the blonde princess appears conflicted, while hesitating to take her first bite. Noticing her reluctance, the orange-haired maid Bella asks why she isn't eating the delicious treat yet. Worried, Estrella asks if eating the cookie will hurt the bunny, but the maid reassures her otherwise. Bella suggests starting with the tail and praises the quality of the dough prepared by the head chef. A bright glow surrounds Estrella as she takes a bite, finding the cookie to be absolutely delicious. Jaren asks if it's tasty and offers to share his own snacks, encouraging the young girl to relax. Scratching his head, Jaren tentatively asks if he can use a cute nickname, Eddie, when addressing her. With a cookie in her hand, Estrella looks surprised and reminds him that her real name is Estrella.
Jaren waves at the brown-haired maid, requesting writing tools so he can show Estrella something interesting.
The group watches as Jaren begins writing on a board, preparing to teach the girl about her name.
Estrella looks on with wide-eyed curiosity as Jaren points out the letters that form her royal name.
Jaren explains how the letters combine into different sounds, though he still admits his preference for her nickname. Startled by a sudden realization, the blonde princess jumps, her tray of cookies shaking as she reacts. Puzzled, Estrella looks at a long, tan-colored object and wonders if it is meant to be her pet, Longy. The brown-haired maid watches nervously as the girl stares at the unusually shaped snack with intense curiosity. Realization strikes as Estrella shouts the name of her pet snake, Longy, appearing shocked by the cookie's likeness. The brown-haired maid smiles with relief, happy that her handmade treat successfully resembled the girl's mysterious pet. Urban looks on with a sweat drop, silently noting that the young girl is incredibly skilled at ignoring others. Kneeling, Urban tries to bridge the gap by identifying himself as her future uncle and asking for a greeting. A cold, intense glare from the blonde girl meets Urban's request, chilling the air and silencing the room. Urban properly introduces himself as the Emperor's younger brother, causing the girl to question their family connection. Urban admits he's surprised she fell for a joke, while a bead of sweat shows his underlying nervousness. Bluntly, the blonde girl claims she knows he hates her, though Urban insists he's beginning to like her. Reaching out, Urban asks if she likes bears and offers to bring her one as a special gift. Estrella's eyes sparkle with excitement at the mention of a bear, her hostility momentarily replaced by pure joy. Urban explains the bear will grow much larger, maintaining a friendly facade despite the girl's earlier bluntness. Urban worries about the trouble he's causing, imagining the Emperor and butler reacting with fury to his antics. Discussing pet policies, Urban mentions that animals aren't allowed, but Estrella notes she already has several companions. Urban finds it suspicious that Heron allows pets, given the Emperor's well-known and deep-seated hatred for animals. A heavy thump sounds as Estrella reacts in horror, realizing her father might actually despise her beloved animal friends. Rhythmic steps sound as the scene shifts to the grand palace hallway, emphasizing the weight of the moment. Clenching her hand, the blonde princess tells the maid she must ask her father about his animal feelings. Urban advises her to cover her jeweled eyes with her bangs to avoid attracting unwanted attention while traveling. A maid questions why the Emperor assigned elite knights to protect the girl despite her unofficial royal status. The narration highlights how Estrella's rare jeweled eyes make her a precious treasure within the imperial family lineage. Urban notices the angry glares from Jaren and Leona, who mistakenly believe he kicked the young girl out. Dismissing the siblings' frustration, Urban announces his departure to visit his eldest nephew, seeking an escape. Urban reflects on the situation, noting that all of the animals Estrella raises came from outside the palace. A soft slide sounds as the blonde girl calls out to a spirit, asking for its guidance. A brilliant flash appears as a blue-haired spirit manifests, gently touching the young girl's face with affection. Surrounded by floating crystals, Estrella remains still as the presence of the mysterious spirit fills the quiet room. The blue-haired spirit looks on with a somber expression, softly repeating the word "uncle" in deep thought. Looking down, the spirit offers a faint, mysterious smile, while the atmosphere remains thick with unspoken secrets. The spirit tenderly cups the girl's face, while Estrella looks back with wide, shimmering golden eyes. The blue-haired spirit's expression darkens as she wishes to never have to lay eyes on certain people again. With an inquisitive gaze, the blonde girl Estrella informs the shimmering spirit she will depart once the snow falls. The blue-haired spirit leans in with concern, questioning if she was threatened with expulsion when winter arrives. In the grand hallway, Estrella admits she requested the departure herself, while the spirit harbors a deep resentment for humans. Looking up with her shimmering golden eye, Estrella notes that the mysterious spirit is behaving quite strangely. A gentle warmth radiates as the blue-haired spirit affectionately touches Estrella's head before beginning to fade away. Clutched within her small hand, the blue scales of her pet snake Longy provide a familiar sense of comfort. Standing alone in the ornate room, the young girl remains lost in thought while holding her loyal companion close. A quick step sounds as Estrella runs through the palace, her long blonde hair trailing behind her in a rush. Noticing her sudden arrival, the gray-haired butler Heron asks the young lady what has caused her such distress. Another step echoes as Estrella asks if her uncle is present, leaving the startled butler to wonder about her intent. Heron confirms the emperor's presence, privately noting that the ruler has been consumed by a profound sadness. Seeking an audience, Estrella asks for permission to enter, and the butler graciously offers to announce her arrival immediately. A sudden stand sounds as the blonde emperor rises from his desk to warmly welcome the young girl. Clutching her bag nervously, Estrella looks toward her father and asks if she is permitted to sit with him. The emperor welcomes her to sit anywhere, though he privately worries about the dark expression shadowing her face. Settling into a large chair, Estrella listens as the emperor gently asks what is weighing on her mind. Looking at the desk covered in scrolls, she wonders aloud if he was too busy to be interrupted. A sudden whoosh sounds as Estrella clears the desk with a swipe, bluntly declaring the important documents to be trash. Beads of sweat roll down the emperor's face as he jokingly suggests Heron needs to be better at cleaning. Leaning in with interest, the emperor asks how her snack time with the other royal children went. Her expression remains stoic as she begins to bring up the comments made by her red-haired uncle. A shadow falls over the emperor's face as he realizes the trouble his brother's words have caused the child. Estrella pointedly asks if he dislikes her animal companions, leaving the emperor completely baffled by the sudden question. She explains that she heard this information from her uncle's little brother, referring to the mischievous Urban. The emperor realizes Urban has been talking about his distaste for animals and tries to gently interrupt her. Overwhelmed by guilt, the emperor reflects on his absence during her upbringing and wonders if he deserves to be called her father. A soft sit sounds as the emperor settles beside her, asking if she truly wishes to return to her former home. Silence fills the room as the blonde girl looks down, her thoughts unreadable as she considers his offer. The emperor reassures her that he will never force her hand, wanting only for her to follow her own heart. With a sincere expression, he confesses his desire for them to live together as a true family. A flicker of doubt crosses Estrella's face as she repeats the word family, searching for its meaning. A firm hold sounds as the emperor takes her hand, explaining that family is a safe place for honesty and vulnerability. The emperor is struck with shock when Estrella claims that her mother had simply abandoned her. A dark memory reveals the butler and a black-haired knight at the door as Estrella recalls being told her mother died.
Desperate to fix the misunderstanding, the emperor insists that her mother's actions were not motivated by abandonment.
Estrella looks away, stating that her mother's greatest wish was finally granted upon the day of her birth. Stunned into silence, the emperor can only repeat the word wish as he processes her heartbreaking revelation. Turning inward, the young girl reveals she has been aware of the truth regarding her circumstances from the very beginning. A wave of realization washes over the emperor as he understands that Estrella has carried this burden alone. A gentle reach sounds as the emperor extends his gloved hand, determined to bridge the distance between them. A sudden flinch sounds as a golden aura erupts, startling the emperor with an unexpected display of power. Searching for clarity, Estrella asks what it truly means to be family and if such a bond changes anything. The emperor clenches his hand in agony, mourning the cruel fate that his precious daughter must endure. A sharp halt sounds as Estrella clutches her head in pain, overwhelmed by a sensory overload. A bright flare sounds as the golden energy intensifies, reflecting the girl's growing internal distress. Shielding her eyes, the young girl cries out for the noise to stop and for the presences to stay away. A tense clench sounds as the emperor realizes with horror that she is physically experiencing his own turbulent emotions. A brilliant flash and a soft shh sound as a crystalline glow begins to emanate from Estrella's eye. A magical sparkle sounds as the intricate, jeweled patterns within her golden eye are fully revealed in the light. Panicked by the radiant display, the emperor and Heron rush forward to aid the collapsing young lady. A sudden swoosh sounds as the black-haired knight Karijan senses a sharp, magical change in the air. The blue-haired spirit manifests, calling the young girl Rue as her golden eye begins to glow with power. A heavy thud sounds as the room is overtaken by a frost-covered aura surrounding the emperor and Estrella. A sudden tremble sounds while the blonde emperor protectively commands the mysterious entity to stay away from his child. Looking down with cold indifference, the blue-haired spirit challenges the emperor's authority and right to protect the girl. With her shimmering golden eye wide, Estrella questions if the spirit is the one she considers her friend. Confirming her suspicion, the blue-haired spirit gently invites the young girl to come closer to his side. Clenching her hands to her chest, the blonde princess admits she is feeling deeply overwhelmed and exhausted. Leaning in, the spirit explains that the chaotic noise she hears is actually her father's intense worry for her. Estrella looks back in confusion, trying to process the concept of worry for the first time in her life. The spirit tenderly cups her face, explaining that her father's grief over her mother's death triggered this emotional resonance. A gentle shine sounds as Estrella realizes that being worried about is not a scary or painful experience. Turning back toward her father, the young girl softly asks the emperor if he truly felt worried for her. With a pained but sincere expression, the blonde emperor confirms that he was indeed very worried about her well-being. A soft smile touches Estrella's face as she experiences a rare moment of genuine emotional connection with her father. The blue-haired spirit sighs in frustration, privately mocking the perceived incompetence of humans when it comes to parenting. Karijan points his sword at the spirit, sternly reminding him that no magician may enter the palace without permission. A firm shout sounds as Estrella tells Karijan to stop his aggressive behavior toward her spirit companion. Standing her ground, the young girl commands the black-haired knight to lower his sword and respect her friend. Despite the princess's orders, Koreejin insists that the presence of an unauthorized magician poses a significant security threat. The blue-haired spirit looks away with boredom, questioning if he is forced to tolerate the knight's posturing any longer. Kneeling down, the emperor expresses his need to understand the spirit's true influence and intentions regarding his daughter. Looking directly at the spirit, the blonde girl Estrella utters the word uncle, causing a ripple of sudden confusion. Startled by her address, Koreejin repeats the word in shock, while the spirit remains calm and unbothered by her. The emperor clarifies that he only seeks to know the spirit's identity and origin to ensure his daughter's safety. Granting a small concession, the emperor decides that the spirit does not need to be forcibly removed for now. A metallic clack sounds as Koreejin reluctantly sheathes his sword, following the emperor's command, despite his own lingering distrust. A soft fading sounds as the blue-haired spirit begins to vanish, leaving the atmosphere of the room slowly cooling. A brilliant flash sounds while the spirit completely disappears, leaving the ornate room empty of his physical presence. Watching the empty space, the emperor continues to ponder the mysterious and deep relationship between the spirit and Estrella. Sitting alone, the blonde girl holds the blue scales of her snake Longy, finding comfort in their familiar texture. Darkness falls over the grand imperial palace, the stone spires silhouetted against a vast and starry night sky. Standing by a window, a red-haired man with freckles sips tea while contemplating his next calculated move. The narration details how the imperial bloodline, including the emperor and his children, is defined by immense divine power. A translucent image of the spirit appears behind Estrella, illustrating the frosty wind that serves as her constant protector. Reflecting on his past failures, the red-haired man notes that the young princess is scheduled to depart tomorrow. A dark excitement fills the man's expression as the air begins to swirl with a sudden, chilling, magical energy. Turning his head sharply, the red-haired man notices a presence manifesting through the window behind him. A loud crack sounds as the window glass fractures, signaled by a massive red exclamation mark of total surprise. The red-haired man scoffs at the intrusion, wondering what kind of reckless person would dare to break in. A sharp command tells the man to stop his arrogant talking as a blue magical circle pulses with energy. The blue-haired spirit stands before the window, prompting the red-haired man to question his strange and otherworldly nature. With an icy and determined gaze, the spirit announces that he has come specifically to deliver a final warning. The spirit points out that it would be in the man's best interest to never touch the girl Rue again. A mystical butterfly floats near the spirit's outstretched hand as he threatens the man's very life for his interference. The red-haired man reacts with shock as a massive crystal cluster erupts from the floor, freezing everything around him. A sudden "ha" sounds as a dark flare of red and black energy erupts from the freckled man's body. A dark flare sounds while the man mocks the spirit's display of power, calling him a predictable show-off. Unfazed by the dark aura, the blue-haired spirit smirks, prepared to counter whatever the red-haired man attempts next. A crystalline butterfly begins to float away as the tense confrontation between the two powerful entities reaches a boiling point. The red-haired urban stares in disbelief as a crystalline spike freezes the air before him. Gritting his teeth, Urban attempts to melt the magical ice with a surge of dark, fiery energy. To his absolute shock, the unnatural ice refuses to melt, despite the intense heat of his flames. Urban mocks the spirit's weakened state, questioning his presence after supposedly losing most of his divine power.
The blue-haired spirit offers a cold retort, telling the meddling human to mind his own business. After delivering a final warning, the spirit begins to fade away as Urban desperately tries to stop him. Frustrated, Urban shouts for the departing spirit to undo the freezing spell before he disappears completely. High above, the yellow-roofed towers of the Imperial Palace gleam under a peaceful, cloud-dotted blue sky. A soft whoosh sounds as a transmission circle glows, confirming the safe arrival of the royal retinue. Protective as ever, the blonde emperor apologizes to Estrella for the recent dangers they have encountered together. Clutching her teddy bear, Estrella insists she is fine, but continues to address her father as uncle. The blonde emperor kneels to meet his daughter's gaze, his posture reflecting his deep longing for connection. With a hopeful expression, the emperor asks if she would consider calling him dad instead of uncle. Silence follows as the young blonde girl considers the weight of his request, her expression unreadable. Repeating the word dad with wide, curious eyes, she searches for the meaning behind the title. A radiant smile breaks across Estrella's face as she finally accepts the new bond, calling him dad. A soft hug sounds as the emperor pulls her close, promising to always shield her from harm. Resting against his shoulder, Estrella looks content, the tension of their past misunderstandings finally beginning to fade. A bright flash sounds as a massive magical circle erupts in light, signaling the start of their journey. The emperor gives a firm nod to the hooded mage, signaling for the teleportation spell to proceed. Elsewhere, the red-haired Urban waves a weary hello, complaining about his sleepless night spent fighting the ice. A gentle pat sounds as the emperor reassures his daughter that she is safe under his protection. A brilliant flash sounds while the magical portal fully activates, engulfing the room in a blinding white light. The scene shifts to a grand estate where the staff expresses gratitude for the aid provided to patients. A brown-haired man in a decorated uniform discusses the next steps for distributing much-needed medical supplies. He reflects on the miraculous nature of their survival, noting that even death can seemingly be delayed. Sitting nearby, a young boy named Isaac displays bright orange hair and striking crystalline blue jeweled eyes. Isaac shares his fears of abandonment with the brown-haired man, doubting if his family truly wants him. The man reassures Isaac of the emperor's strong sense of duty, attempting to soothe the boy's anxieties. Feeling a temporary sense of relief, the orange-haired boy looks down, processing the man's comforting words. Isaac claims to be exhausted from using his abilities and asks for permission to retire to his room. With a polite bow, the young boy excuses himself, leaving the adults to continue their discussion. A soft close sounds as the door shuts, followed by a chilling, sinister laugh echoing in the hallway. Revealing his true nature, Isaac gazes at stolen jeweled eyes, plotting to escape the sewers and become a prince. The emperor and Estrella arrive at the estate, greeted by the bowing staff as they enter the foyer. While the staff wonders about the child's identity, the emperor offers Estrella a chance to rest. Estrella insists she won't be bored, mentioning the cookies in her bag as she holds her bear. The emperor pauses, sensing a shift in the atmosphere as he looks toward the brown-haired official. Suddenly, Estrella's expression changes as she warns her father that she is sensing a deep, localized pain. Startled by her warning, the emperor tells her to stay close, realizing she is detecting something sinister. A firm nod sounds as the pink-haired knight questions his companion, while Corrigan confirms their protective duty. With a confident smile, Estrella promises to protect her father, reversing the roles in their developing relationship. Shifting to business, the emperor requests an immediate report on the status of the ongoing research. The group settles in the lounge as the emperor probes for updates on the mysterious recovery of patients. The brown-haired man explains that while research is incomplete, several patients recovered through an alternate, unknown method. Tension mounts as the emperor demands to know who was responsible for the miraculous healings. Karajan and the hooded heron react with shock as the official mentions a person with jeweled eyes. Urban narrows his eyes in suspicion, wondering if there could possibly be another person possessing such divine power. With a cold and commanding gaze, the emperor orders for the mysterious boy to be brought before him. A sharp knock-knock sounds at the double doors, announcing the arrival of the person in question. Isaac is revealed hiding within the shadows of a large and ornate wooden wardrobe. The blonde emperor reacts with intense shock upon seeing the child's glowing blue jeweled eyes. Trembling with nerves, Isaac offers a hesitant greeting to the powerful and suspicious emperor. The emperor commands Uriel to examine the boy and confirm his potential imperial bloodline. Uriel kneels before the frightened child, requesting permission to verify the source of his power. A surge of blue magical energy pulses while Uriel holds Isaac's hand to check his affinity. Looking back at his sovereign, Uriel confirms that the boy's jeweled eyes are indeed genuine. The emperor reflects on the revelation, realizing the child must be related to the imperial family. Estrella stands perfectly still, her orange jeweled eye fixed in a vacant and haunting stare. Noticing her sudden distress, the emperor asks Estrella if anything is troubling her mind. A sharp flinch sounds while Estrella reacts to a terrifying vision only she can perceive. Isaac begins to shiver uncontrollably as he senses a dark and chilling presence from the princess. A loud "ah" sounds while both children collapse from a sudden, overwhelming burst of mental agony. A soft shake sounds as the emperor frantically checks on both children before shouting for a doctor. Sweating and gasping for breath, Isaac mutters to himself that the young princess is a monster. Isaac questions if she is a demon, recalling seeing her lifeless body once in his past. A dark glare sounds as the emperor threatens Isaac to never insult the princess again. Paralyzed by the emperor's murderous intent, Isaac can only stammer in a state of pure terror. A soft raise sounds while Uriel suggests they focus on the princess's recovery before the boy's fear. The gray-haired official urges the emperor to suppress his rage for the sake of his daughter. The emperor reluctantly accepts the advice, his expression remaining cold and protective of his child. The emperor carries Estrella away, commanding the group to follow and leaving the boy behind. The official asks Isaac if he is all right as the boy continues to tremble in fear. Isaac insists to the official that he saw the princess's corpse in the forest previously. Shocked by her identity, Isaac recalls a traumatic memory of a girl left for dead. In Isaac's memory, a dirty and seemingly lifeless Estrella lies motionless among the forest grass. Isaac warns the official that the princess poses a grave danger to the emperor's safety. A soft shiver sounds as the official warns Isaac to stay quiet to ensure his survival. Clenching his fist, Isaac believes the princess has bewitched everyone in the palace with her power. Isaac bows submissively to the official, pretending to accept the reprimand while hiding his deep suspicion. Isaac explains that their jeweled eyes allowed them to share and see each other's hidden memories. A soft close sounds while the official ponders the weight of the princess experiencing death. A loud ah sounds in a vision of Estrella confronting a ragged and pleading Isaac. Looking at the boy with disgust, the blonde girl watches him struggle alone in the dirt.
The vision reveals a young Isaac eating, while the blonde girl stands nearby, watching him silently. Ragged Isaac looks up with a start, noticing something unusual during his time of suffering.
A hand reaches down toward two brilliant blue spheres glowing in the dark forest soil. The scene shifts to a sunlit bedroom where birds chirp peacefully outside the window.
Waking up in her bed, Estrella realizes her recent traumatic memories were only a dream. Estrella turns her head quickly as her father's voice calls her name from the bedside.
The Emperor expresses his immense relief as Estrella smiles and calls him Dad once again. The Emperor asks if Isaac did anything to her, but Estrella denies any wrongdoing occurred. He offers to listen to her troubles, but she insists she is perfectly fine and happy. Estrella asks for crayfish for a snack, causing her father to worry they might be unavailable.
Estrella looks visibly disappointed upon hearing her father's doubt about her favorite food choice.
The Emperor flusteredly explains that uncles are out catching crayfish while clarifying the term to her. The Emperor helps Estrella out of her bed, promising to take her to get some food. They enter the grand dining hall and are greeted by the waitstaff and a quiet Isaac. The Emperor expresses his surprise and slight annoyance that Isaac is joining them for the meal.
Isaac apologizes for his previous rudeness, explaining that his jeweled eyes sense things others cannot.
The blonde Emperor remains protective, suggesting a separate meal to spare the princess further discomfort from the boy. Isaac plays the victim, while the brown-haired official silently mocks the boy's blatant and despicable attempts at manipulation. A dark and ominous aura surrounds Isaac as he prepares to spread more of his hidden, localized malice. Watching the boy, the Emperor feels a disconnect, sensing that Isaac truly fails to grasp the depth of his intent. The Emperor decides they will dine on the second floor, ordering the rest of the group to remain below. The staff protests the sudden change, urging the Emperor to stay while promising to prioritize Estrella's comfort during the meal. Following a tense apology from Isaac, the Emperor bluntly commands the hungry boy to begin eating his portion immediately. A sharp grit sounds as Isaac trembles with rage, inwardly labeling the princess a deceptive monster who tricks humans. Sharing a quiet, intimate moment, the Emperor leans his forehead against Estrella's in a display of deep fatherly affection. Seeing his daughter finally eating happily, the Emperor thinks she is adorable as a sense of peace fills him. A steady nom-nom sounds as Estrella enthusiastically devours her food, her earlier distress seemingly forgotten for the moment. Isaac watches her with a clenched fist, determined to protect his status against the young princess at any cost. Pausing mid-meal, Estrella's serious expression returns as she stares toward the others sitting at the far end of the table. The blonde girl focuses her gaze intensely on the meat held upon her fork, appearing deep in thought. Shocking everyone at the table, Estrella offers a piece of her own food to the wary and surprised Isaac. While Heron checks on her, the Emperor is stunned by his daughter's sudden and unexpected display of genuine kindness. A warm smile touches the Emperor's lips as he marvels at Estrella's willingness to share her favorite snack. Estrella encourages the boy to eat, noticing that he is truly hungry despite his earlier pretenses and nervous behavior. Flanked by beautiful flowers, Isaac smiles brightly and offers his thanks, though his true intentions remain dark and hidden. A sudden, sharp pinch sounds under the table as Isaac cruelly attacks Estrella's hand while taking the meat. Crying out in pain, Estrella reacts to the secret sting as she loses her grip on her dining utensils. A metallic drop sounds while the fork and meat fall unceremoniously onto the wooden floor below her seat. Isaac feigns a worried gasp, immediately acting innocent to cover up his deliberate and malicious act from the adults. Isaac shifts the blame, while a soft hop sounds as Estrella jumps off her chair to retrieve the fallen food. A determined grab sounds as Estrella reaches down, ignoring royal etiquette to salvage her meal from the floor. Another nom sounds as the princess defies expectations by eating the food directly off the floor, proving she isn't easily deterred. Isaac is mortified, convinced that she is mocking his past by purposefully eating like a common beggar in front of him. Heron quickly intervenes, asking to carry the princess back to her seat after her unusual and shocking display of behavior. Isaac seethes with jealousy, unable to understand why Estrella isn't being punished for her seemingly dirty and disgusting actions. The brown-haired man smirks at the boy's childish schemes, noting that Isaac's malicious thoughts reveal his true, fraudulent nature. Ancient lore describes the Jubar as inherently kind-hearted beings who are incapable of truly turning their backs on humanity. The legend continues, revealing that these souls would rather suffer self-destruction than allow their rage to harm others. Reflecting on the legend, the man contemplates the possibility of corrupting the princess's kind soul through dark, demonic influence. Eating quietly, Estrella casts a suspicious glance toward the boy, sensing the growing darkness within his troubled mind. Isaac remains shrouded in colors of hate and misery, his internal pain manifesting as a dark, visual aura only Estrella perceives. Estrella ponders the swirling emotions she senses, while the Emperor plans a trip to town once their meal is finished. Looking somber, the Emperor offers a sincere apology for exposing his young daughter to such a dangerous and tense environment. Looking up with bright eyes, Estrella reassures her father that she is perfectly fine and ready for their next journey. The Emperor resolves to finish their business quickly, hoping to secure a peaceful and happy future for his beloved child. With her mood restored, Estrella continues to eat her snack with a content expression, enjoying the quiet moment. A distant chatter sounds as the Emperor approaches a magnificent white horse, waiting patiently by the central fountain. A firm nod sounds as the horse, Horon, is revealed to be a stubborn beast, loyal only to its master. Memories of Selena's past struggle with the animal emphasize Horon's difficult nature and his very selective temperament toward children. The Emperor looks tense, realizing that Estrella must ride this specific horse for her own protection if danger arises. A gentle caress sounds while the Emperor pleads with Horon to accept the young princess as his temporary rider. Estrella feels uncomfortable as Heron bundles her into a thick, white winter coat for the cold journey ahead. A weary sigh sounds while the Emperor covers his eyes, frustrated by Horon's cold and stern rejection of his request. Horon remains unyielding, his sharp gaze reflecting the legendary stubbornness that has made him a difficult case to train. The Emperor ponders his next move, desperate to find a way to make the stubborn horse cooperate for Estrella's safety. Heron insists on the heavy gear, explaining that the ride will be far too cold for the princess without proper protection. Estrella's face brightens with joy as she spots the magnificent white horse and exclaims in pure delight. Sensing her approach, the white horse is suddenly startled as a sharp spark of awareness flashes through its eyes. A loud screech sounds as Horon rears up, prompting the blonde Emperor to shout a desperate command for restraint. Despite the horse's sudden outburst, Estrella remains captivated, marveling at the creature's impressive size with a radiant smile. The majestic animal suddenly stops its aggressive movements, falling silent as it stares intently at the young girl.
A soft bow sounds as Horon lowers its head, surprising the emperor, while Estrella asks if it's greeting her.
Eager to befriend the beast, Estrella politely asks if she can touch its mane to feel its softness. A heavy sit sounds as Horon obediently kneels on the ground, allowing the small princess to reach him easily. Watching the scene unfold, the blonde emperor reflects on the horse's stubborn history while marveling at its newfound docility. A warm hug sounds while Estrella wraps her arms around Horon's neck, finding comfort in the horse's presence. Nuzzling against the soft mane, Estrella happily notes that the horse feels even softer than her pet, Yellowy. The emperor confirms the horse's name is indeed Horon, looking down at his daughter with a gentle, curious expression. Estrella leans her cheek against the horse's face, sharing a quiet moment of connection with the once unruly creature.
The firm hoist sounds as Estrella refuses her father's help, determined to climb onto the horse's back all by herself.
A quick hold sounds as Estrella successfully mounts Horon, petting him while asking the horse to protect her.
As they ride through the forest, the emperor smiles at Estrella's happiness, though she remains focused on her new friend. A soft shiver sounds while a dark, writhing aura appears over Estrella, signaling a sudden shift in the atmosphere. Sensing the change, the black-haired captain flinches as a sharp pulse of ominous energy ripples through the air. Noticing his daughter's sudden change in mood, the blonde emperor asks what has caused her such visible distress. A heavy writhe sounds under the soldier's boots, hinting at a hidden, malicious presence lurking beneath the surface.
Looking back at her father with wide eyes, Estrella urgently warns him that he must not dismount the horse.
Ignoring her father's warning, Estrella jumps off the horse into the dusty town square where the soldiers are gathered. A sharp turn sounds as the emperor calls out to Estrella, panicked by her sudden and dangerous movement. Estrella shouts a desperate warning for her father to stay mounted, fearing he might suffer a tragic fate. A firm step sounds as the emperor ignores the danger, his boots hitting the dirt as he follows his daughter. Kneeling before her, the emperor explains his willingness to share any danger, prioritizing his love for her above all. A warm hug sounds as the emperor pulls Estrella close, promising to protect her while offering comfort and affection. The two share a tender moment of silence, the atmosphere around them softening in a glow of fatherly love. A gentle caress sounds while the emperor asks if his daughter is worried, only for her to ask him the same. Seeking to understand her fear, the blonde man asks Estrella to describe exactly what she is seeing. The emperor looks confused by her mention of black, seeing only a quiet and seemingly peaceful town before them. A loud whoosh sounds as the scene shifts to reveal the town as it appears to others, silent and unremarkable. A dark haze sounds while the vision shifts, revealing the town consumed by a terrifying, shadowy rot, visible only to Estrella. Pointing a trembling finger, Estrella identifies the source of the danger as she stares directly at a nearby soldier. A heavy drop sounds as a soldier collapses, while Estrella warns that he is about to be completely devoured. A sharp gasp sounds as the afflicted man begins to panic, his body trembling as a dark transformation takes hold. Looking skeletal and decayed, the man begs others to stay away, warning them about the onset of a deadly epidemic. A fierce lunge sounds as the diseased man attacks, forcing a terrified female soldier to cry out in fear. Reacting quickly, the black-haired captain calls for William, who responds with a firm nod and ready expression. A sudden turn sounds as the monster man focuses his crazed, white-eyed gaze on the approaching knights. A low growl sounds as the monster reaches for the knights, while William approaches with a series of steady steps.
A loud whack sounds as William delivers a powerful punch, his armored fist striking the monster with incredible force.
A heavy thud sounds while the monster falls, leaving William to huff about the creature's lack of true strength.